Good afternoon and welcome to Paul Ricard Circuit in the south of France, just 45 minutes from Marseille. You join us on the grid ahead of the Michelin Le Mans Cup round 2. Marta Garcia and Vanina Ricks having a bit of fun before the battle commences, and great to see them back after the travails of Barcelona that saw Marta violently pitched out of the lead of the race. Great to see her and the team back. 42 cars on a now sun-blessed circuit in the south of France, set to do battle as we move to round 2 of the Le Mans Cup calendar. Next up is the Road to Le Mans and 2 one-hour races in support of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Before we go on our travels again, it's the unique 5.82 kilometre circuit. The blue and red lines, the legacy of this circuit's time as a world-renowned test track, still performs that function year-round. Gael, our event director, to the left, and Nicolas Lapierre, the team co-owner at CLX Motorsports. Winners last time out, of course, in what was a great weekend for the Swiss flag team. Temperatures coming up, still a light breeze, you can see from the flags on the grid. 22 degrees. Start to take a look through this grid. This is 39th overall, the 95 car, EB Motors, 5th in GT3. The multicoloured Porsche 911 GT3R. Please it would be Fabrizio Broggi to start that car this afternoon. We'll be suiting up, mounting up. Decent crowd here for a Saturday afternoon on what is a weekend with a public holiday on May Day, a couple of days ago. Team Motor Park and their AMG. Neumann will start the number 65 Mercedes. Put the car on pole position last time out in Spain. It's the sea of LMP3 cars here.
Hello, Graham. Am I late?
No, he's been doing highlights, haven't you?
I have been doing, yeah.
But good to see Johnny Palmer back. I'm Graham Goodwin, by the way.
Hello, Graham.
And this is Johnny Palmer.
Hello, everybody.
The voice of the European Le Mans Series, Michelin Le Mans Cup, Leisure European Series, and pretty much everything else he puts
all of those.
Puts his time to.
I was next door voicing the qualification highlights for the European Le Mans Series.
Of which there were legion.
Well, that's why it took me so long. But you'll be able to see those later on with the team working hard to cut that edit together.
Just a quick view of the view you get if you have a really big off here. But this is an outstanding facility. Suits the sports car racing to a T. Vanina Ricks it will be in the Iron Dames number 83 cars. As I said, led the race until the massive dramas that saw Marta Garcia pitched out of the lead just after she climbed aboard the car. But Vanina, at 50 years young, has shown she's lost nothing in terms of her competitive spirit. Great to see her face-to-face for a little wee while this weekend, reminiscing about decades past and battles won and lost. The 17 car here, pole position in GT3, and it will be Lorenzo Innocenti to take the wheel of the Castle Racing car. That's the results from qualifying. It was a very tight qualifying indeed. Vanina Ricks did not give the Castle Racing boys a very easy time at all. But Ferrari it is on pole position ahead of their bitterest rivals in sports car racing, Porsche.
Yeah, so 8 GT3 cars and assembled in kind of the order that we would have expected on single lap pace, but bear in mind that's all bronze time, and the bronze drivers have to do a specific segment of this 2-hour race. But then if there's a safety car or some sort of full course yellow, then that could dramatically change the direction that we may go in. The weather conditions were questionable earlier on today. I think looking at the sky outside of our TV compound area, everything's looking rosy at this stage, 22 degrees Celsius, and the blue sky is endless above us. So hopefully, I say hopefully no weather. It does tend to spice things up, but the teams will be wanting that to stay as consistent as possible.
Fifth in LMP3 Pro, Writer engineering car in the unmistakable Feldmeier family colours. Right-hand drive, as Alicia always is in LMP. And it's a father and son effort, Horst Felbermayr and Horst Felix Felbermayr. Effectively Horst Felbermayr the third, as far as racing is concerned at least. Rinaldi Racing in the Carrera colours. Stefan Aust, who amongst his business interest includes the Carrera Revel brands, beloved to very many enthusiasts of motorsport, fine cars, aeroplanes, boats, you name it, RC cars, fabulous stuff. The iconic Paul Ricard sign. It's always a pleasure to see that as we arrive every year. Julien Lemois in the ANS Motorsport number 84 car, third in LMP3 Pro. And remember, this is effectively the LMP3 class as was last season, with at least one bronze driver in the car. But there are legion cars ahead of the LMP3 Proams, as we'll see in just a short moment.
In one of the very few moments I had as time off earlier on in the day, I actually revisited the 1990 French Grand Prix, which was the last Grand Prix to be held here prior to the latest visits in the last, what, 6 years or so. Andrew Marriott on commentary.
Andrew Marriott.
And you're right about the iconic sign. I don't think that's changed in 35 years or more, probably.
I think Andrew is a bigger legend than that sign.
Maybe.
Andrew, what a lovely, lovely man he is. 19th, by the way, on the grid, but pole position in class. Terence Woodward, after a cracking qualifying session from Terence. The national anthem, of course, of the fabulous country of France where we're based. I'm just making sure that it wasn't triggered by me saying the words Terence Woodward. It's not happened again, so it clearly wasn't.
Fine.
But great qualifying performance for Terence in his new team for this year, for him. 23 events racing, and pole position there. Fifth overall on the grid in LMP3. This is the new class this year, which does not require a bronze driver. And the fifth on the grid car is one of a trio of Duquesne cars fielded by RSGP and Hugo Sforza. It will be to start that car. The 92 car sits ahead, fourth on the grid for Forestier Racing by VPS. Charles Roussin will start that car from row 2. Apologies, can't count. And there is Charles, gives us a wave. Second chance to see the fabulous Writer Engineering Felbermayr colours, this time third in LMP3 for the 25 car. Benji Valent, it will be that starts the 25 car from the outside of row 2. So two more to sum up before we get to the front of this grid. It's going to be another 23 events racing car, so they had one heck of a qualifying pole in LMP2 Pro-Am. Second on the grid in the overall order for LMP3. There it is, very different colours from the other car. And it will be Lene Buller that will start the car, qualified brilliantly by Matteo Quintarelli. And this car in very Italian colours sits to the inside of row 1. Tight qualifying again in LMP3. And this 42 car grid extends all the way down the start finish straight here. Great time for sports car racing all the way through the ladder, or up the ladder rather. Here though is our pole position car, the 87 from CLX Motorsports. Pierre-Alexandre Provost, it was that set that time, and he will start the car. And very tight indeed it was in the last knockings of this qualifying session. Exciting stuff. And if this 42-car grid can keep it neat and tidy, we could well have an absolute cracker of a 2-hour race ahead of us.
These days, on a grid for the Michelin Le Mans Cup, there is the category separation. We didn't always have that, so that if some LMP3s were in fact slower than the leading GT3s, that overlap was incorporated onto the grid. But that doesn't happen these days. However, there's some doubt about the Artur Rodgen CD Sport car.
I was looking to see whether or not that car made it to the... It's shown... It was shown on the graphic earlier.
Yes.
So we'll wait and see.
I think I just saw a CD Sport liveried car.
Just two.
Roughly, yeah, I know, but on the right-hand side, about a third of the way back. And that's precisely where the 30 car should be. The other CD Sport car, now where is that? On which side of the grid? That's on the left-hand side. There's only two CD Sport cars. I think he's there then.
But that's brilliant luck for the team that the damage wasn't beyond them. Let's run through the starting grid, Johnny.
Okay, so Pierre-Alexandre Provost, terrific qualifying session earlier on, number 87 for CLX Motorsport, will start alongside Lena Bühler, who you've already mentioned, for 23 events racing. Then it is Bence Valant of Hungary for Reiter Engineering alongside Charles Roussin. And in the third row, Hugo Schwartz, Marcus Pommer for R-Ace and ANS, respectively. Another RACE GP car for Edgar Pierre will start alongside Valentino Catalano in the 70 Gebhardt Motorsport entry. Then it's Team Virage's Sacha Lehmann from 9th, Louis Rousset for Forestier Racing by VPS. The second of the CLX Motorsport cars, it might be a touch disappointed with that, but Cedric Ultramer can advance from 11th alongside Philip Lindbergh for High Class Racing. Then it's Freddie Tomlinson and Mikael Pitamba for DKR and Team Virage, respectively. Colin Noble, who is gold, so watch him rise to the surface in the number 7 Nielsen Racing car alongside Breton Racing's Hayden Chance. Nielsen Racing's Mikkel Christensen, number 4, alongside Artur Rodgen, who is shown with no time because unfortunately his crash happened before he had a chance to record one. 23 events racing, Terence Woodward, excellent effort to start from 19th, but more importantly, the lead in LMP3 Pro-Am alongside Ben Stone for Breton Racing. Then it's Julien Lemoine and Stefan Aust for ANS and Rinaldi. And in 23rd, Reiter Engineering's Horst Felbenmeyer, joined by Romano Ricci. Mark van der Snel for More Motorsport, Eric de Donker for Motorsport 98. 27th, Shahan Sarkissian in the other CD Sport car, and Jean-Ludovic Foubert. And then it's Ari Balog for Inter-Europol competition alongside Steve Parrow. Mark Patterson's high-class racing car had big problems mechanically in qualifying. That car will start from 13th position in class ahead of George Nakas, who had a spin in the GG Classics car, Andrew Ferguson and Michael Doppelmayr. Then we're into the GT3 part of the field. Really good lap from Lorenzo Innocenti to get a pole for Kessel Racing, number 17, ahead of Vanina X for Iron Dames. Then Alessandro Cozzi, Heiko Neumann in their Ferrari and Mercedes, Fabrizio Broggi, Philippe Sager, Josip Maiola and Murat Chua-Doroglu to complete the 42-car lineup. 33 car will slot into the rear then to make it a Kessel Racing car at the front and the back of the GT3 field. The green flag is waved. We're on the rolling lap, Graham.
We are indeed. Press that button. And it is a French Rugby International for waving the national flag, not the green flag, today for the start. 2 formation laps for the 42 cars. And then away we will go. Just about getting things underway. The last of the 42 clears the grid. Well, Michelin Le Mans Cup, Johnny, over the last several years now, has become a really good breeding ground for talent. Talent for the teams, talent for drivers who've made their way up to and through into the very highest pinnacles of sports car racing. teams galore that have made their way through the ranks. Great example of that would be TF Sport, whose first racing in the ACO family was back when this was a GT3 championship only. Look at them now, just setting pole position in European Le Mans Series with the Corvettes in the FI World Endurance Championship, and Corvette here too in the European Le Mans Series, and many, many other teams since then that have followed their form book and made their way up into the European Le Mans Series, the Asia Le Mans Series, the FI World Endurance Championship, and for that matter, across the pond in the InterWeatherTech Sports Car Championship, as well as beyond that, it's GT racing proper. It's been a great factory of talent. The current breed look like they're going to carry that legacy on. What we're looking for now is great racing. Fabulous day now here after earlier showers. Surprise shower that hit us during qualifying earlier today. It doesn't look to be heading that way. There's one weather forecast I saw had dire predictions a couple of days ago, but that seems to have gone away. It's not quite a microclimate here, but no, weather can creep up on you.
Well, yeah, it's the lack of time it takes to change. All of a sudden, bang, we had a quarter of the track, probably a quarter of the track earlier on affected by wet weather, and straight away. So, and that was in the qualifying session for LMP3 Pro Am, which spooked one or two. Now, thankfully, Terence Woodward, who did have a spin in the wet, he'd already set his time, and that was crucial, because had he been going for a time at that point, he probably wouldn't be anywhere close to pole position. But a terrific effort, and they put him back in the car to start this race. He'll have to do a minimum drive time of 50 minutes. Remember, that has been changed since the sporting regulations were first released. And there's a bit of a grey area as we head to Silverstone later on in the campaign, because that's going to be an hour and 50-minute race, like the old days. But these are back to 2-hour races predominantly, and therefore a minimum driver, regardless of grading, drive time, regardless of grading, of 50 minutes.
There is the 30 car coming through now with a all-carbon nose cone to replace the damaged one from today. So we are at 42 cars. That's good news.
Superb. And also even better news that Artur Rodjan has been judged by the medics to be fit to race as well, because there was a concern about just getting him out of the car safely.
Yeah, it was a high-speed accident, wasn't it? And he was another one caught out by the conditions that just fell upon the circuit. If you're leaning hard on slick tyres and there is no grip, trust me, that accident is going to be a rapid one.
Well, as soon as he started spinning at that rate of knots, it's just a question of when the car stops and what you're going to hit, because he was out of control entirely. But testament to how strongly built these LMP3 cars are, and they have been over a number of years, because as you've made the point, some of these Evos, some of these new cars are actually just further iterations of the old ones.
Absolutely.
12,
but all of the
new engines, yes.
Yeah.
But
category leaders to leave
both
a
the
5 cars
Duquesne
length gap to the
and
car in front.
Ligiers, and I think the Ginettas too, although the Ginetta we
No
have here is a new
overtake
car,
before
can
the
be
line,
built
no
on
movement
from
to the side
2020
before the
cars.
line.
Okay.
So, gap there, by the way, between a number of cars. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
I think that's just the back of the LMP3s and the start of the LMP3 Pro-Ams. There is meant to be a small gap, according to the grid sheet, just as there will be from the back of the P3 Pro-Am and then the first of the GT3 cars.
Well, if you're here and enjoying it trackside, hope you've got a refreshing cool beverage and some shade, because 22 degrees is nice and comfortable, but there's 2 hours of racing to come with the new soundtrack, of course, for LMP3, the Toyota Turbo V6 this year, replacing the, well, venerable Nissan
Okay,
V8s.
this is the moment we start assuming grid position.
Through they come, this unique colour
All
scheme
cars in
for
grid
this track.
formation. All cars on
Unmistakable
grid
globally.
formation.
Based on the French flag, as I'm sure many of you have spotted, I think the blue stripes indicate a sort of
All
medium,
cars to stop weaving. We are in
amount
grid
of traction
formation
beneath.
from
So
now
it's
on.
high
2
friction
cars,
tarmac
2
needs
by
to
2
arrest a
cars, 2
slide.
by
But
2.
if you get out into the red stuff, that's even higher friction stuff, hence why it's a bit further away from the edge of the circuit.
Think sandpaper.
Yeah, okay. But it's also down to almost the molecular makeup of the asphalt, which is very easy for me to say. Now, those gaps...
Brilliantly done, I thought, there.
Thanks very much.
You held it together well.
Yeah. I've been talking all day, so generally all the words flow really
Looking
well.
last reminder from my side.
So
no overtakes before the line, no side movement before the line. Keep the gaps between the categories.
Terence Woodward, as there should be. And then the same goes between Michael Doppelmayr and Lorenzo Innocenti. Innocenti is the pole man in his Ferrari in GT3. Will he get the better of the getaways between he and Vanina Ricks on the front row of GT3? They're all going to be greeted by red lights, even though the speed is starting to increase in anticipation of those lights being extinguished. Make sure you're in the middle of the grid hatchings. There's movement further back. In fact, there wasn't movement further back. And one car heavily delayed. Was that a Virage car going slowly? Anyway, we are racing. And to the inside line, Pierre-Alexandre Provost will get the run through Verrerie as the race leader. Slotting into second position is Lena Bühler.
Yeah, the green car that pulled up as they tried to get it moving.
It's Terence Woodward. Terence Woodward hasn't got going.
Yeah, but I think another car was collected as the lights went green. I don't think it was Terence. I think it was a car further up the field.
Round the outside for second position. Here comes the 25 of Bence Valent, wasting no time whatsoever. My concern about Terence Woodward, there's actually been contact as well for a car that's only just going across the line now. So was that on a green flag?
I think
contact.
He may have hit the green car.
And there's more getting together here. The GG Classics number 58 and the 27 car are nose to nose. That's at turn 5. And a bit of bodywork goes flying into the air and thankfully lands safely on that first segment of the Mistral Straight. Well,
yeah,
we said it was going to be busy.
The other car involved there was 27 P4 racing car.
So one car just did not match the pace of others in front, and it might have been a fourth row starter. Then we've got the Terence Woodward car not getting underway. Medical car out on track, safety car out on track. That's an Iron Dame Porsche rear bumper, possibly, in an entirely rebuilt, brand new car. So that's working its way around with, well, slightly lighter now. As down the inside, it's not rear bumper, it's fender.
Balance. So it was side by side Vanina Ricks with the 54 car. That then turned around the 27 car that ripped off the rear bodywork. But I think that might just be, it's not going to do the aerodynamics very much good, but relatively cosmetic.
There are the exhausts on a Porsche, that's my only worry.
I think in that car, centre of the rear valance.
Okay, so they're not on the sill, because that section that sits just rearward of the B pillar has been torn off the car. And everyone at Huber Racing who spent 4 solid days fixing that car, or rather building it, are going, no, don't tear it apart again.
So first incident, I'm pretty certain happened pretty far up the grid, as you said. Green car on the inside, for whatever reason, checked up, and I'm fairly certain was collected.
So, interview, this is the replay of the restart, and where's the trouble? Well, there's a green car going slowly, but what's going on with the white, black and red car that also didn't seem to match the speed of anybody else? Or is it just the confusion of the green and black car, maybe for Forestier Racing, not getting started, and those behind unsure whether they should legally overtake or not?
That was Vanina Ricks, by the way, taking the lead, at least briefly, from the start.
Did Terence Woodward get contact, or did his car just not fire into life?
What we didn't see from that was the original angle. Still side by side for Vanina Ricks.
Andrew Ferguson has pitted, by the way, at the end of the first lap. But at the moment, that's the only car not circulating behind the safety car. And then side by side between Bence Valent and Lena Bühler. Bühler lost the place. There's the contact between the nose of the 27, which is the Andrew Ferguson car now in the pit lane, and the side of the Porsche of Vanina Ricks.
The shot we initially saw, what, as you were calling correctly, the start of the race, what I saw to the right-hand side of the screen was that check-up for the green car, and I think another car hit it.
Yeah.
He went to the inside, to the far inside, but I think someone else brushed along it, and I wonder if that might have been Terence Woodward. That was the contact.
Was he on that side of the track? He shouldn't have been, because he was on
pole
position.
There you can see the damage
left.
to. It really is damage to the side of that car.
But it's quite a clean removal of that bodywork. So yes, it's exposed quite a lot of innards, but I don't know whether it's going to slow it down that much. Fingers crossed it doesn't. But Terence Woodward should not have been affected by that, because he was on the left-hand side of the grid, and it was all kicking off on the right-hand side. So it doesn't really answer the question, unless it's the preceding schmozzle. That's a technical word.
Absolutely, well done.
But as everybody checks up, maybe he just had nowhere to go and therefore was delayed, or the car got a hit from the side, and that might have meant that the engine blipped or just totally cut out. He just seemed to have no forward momentum as he reached the Verrerie S, but is still going round. It's just that he's down in 38th position when he'd started in 19th overall, so lost a whole load of places. That bit of Iron Dames Porsche is now being retrieved as well.
Appearing soon on a garage wall near you.
So I'm just going to try and work out who some of those cars were. The green car would have been Louis Rosset. Louis Rosset in the Forestier racing car. Here, his 3-into-1 just doesn't work. And it was the pincer movement on the GG Classics car, with Andrew Ferguson to its left and Vanina Ricks to the right. And they met one another at turn, there in the distance, met one another at turn 5. I think it's just the incident again.
Oh, I see, in the background.
But way in the background, involving Vanina Ricks. And this was the early getaway for Pierre-Alexandre Provost. It's all going brilliantly well for him at the time.
A little bit of bodywork flying. There's a great battle underway there between the Ginetta and the Odesse.
This might answer a few questions.
I think you look to the pit wall here, and it's not that far behind the lead group.
5 cars from the front, I reckon, but on the... Yeah, so the 4 get away on the right-hand side, but it's the one behind, which is a green and black car, Louis Rousset of Forestier Racing by VPS. That's the car that doesn't leave the grid.
So what happens with Terence Woodward? There's a car spinning around there, 2 cars up. That's Terence Woodward.
It is.
So Terence has been spun around, other cars scatter to the inside, and he then gets going, which is what we then saw. We never saw the spin.
No.
But we still haven't seen whether or not there was contact from that car that slowed up. And it was
on the back of Rousset's car.
Yeah, it was the briefest of sights of that to the right-hand side of the screen as we're correctly looking at the front of the grid. There's the damage to the 27 car, Andrew Ferguson. It's very much the innocent party there.
Well, Louis Rousset's still running, but he's been the most delayed because he was stopped on the start-finish straight for quite a period of time. Then we caught a glimpse of him finally leaving that scene. So he's down in 40th position and 18th in his category.
Well,
but I reckon Philip Lindbergh was delayed in the process, because Lindbergh was starting right behind Rousset and may well have hit the back of that green and black 29 car.
So what? This is...
It's live pictures.
Smoke from the rear of the green and black car.
Well, that's the one we think has been hit from behind, or into, in the back of.
So that would be likely tyre rub. So, as things stand, behind the safety car, it is a safe getaway for the 87 car from pole position, from the Writer Engineering number 25 and the 50. 23 Events racing car. That's your 1, 2, 3. Before we get into the first of the non-Ligiers, that's Duquesne 85. The 29 we're talking here.
Yeah, and the bullet's out of shape. It's also rubbing on that rear left corner. That has definitely received some damage on the rear.
Looks like a glancing blow. It could have been a hell of a lot worse.
True. And then only 2 places in front of that is a recovering Terence Woodward. The next question is, where did the contact come from? Was it Ben Stone? Was it Julien Lemoine? It would have been one of those cars that Terence was racing with at the front of LMP3 Pro-Am.
Terence is a straightforward, straight-shooting sort of guy, and I'm sure when he gets out the car, he'll tell us exactly what it was. Probably best we have the bleep button ready.
Yeah.
Because it was
He'll tell us what happened. I don't know whether he'll necessarily know where it came from. Yeah. But
well, the good news for Iron Dames fans is that car is not pitting, so they're not seeing anything on the data to indicate that there's a need to make a repair. I think Garcia waits. Rahal Thrive there, to the left of the screen, who has a big smoke now for the rear of that car. Safety car is coming in this lap, but I think that 29 car is going to have to pit.
They want to try and prolong the pit stop for as much as possible, don't they, to see if they can get through the 50 minutes, but yes, that's surely too big an ask.
No, there's a lot of rub now. What you don't want is for that to cause a bigger issue. So, safety car's pulled away. Pierre Alexandre Provost warms the tyres a little. He'll judge his restart now.
So away we go for the second attempt at a start to this race. And we've already had 10 minutes of the prescribed 2 hours. Good getaway, well, a good start actually for Bence Valent in the initial stages. So that's gained him 1 position on Lena Bühler for 23 Events Racing, who is in 3rd, ahead of Hugo Schwarzer for R-Race GP. The car with the yellow door mirrors is the 84 working its way through. Julien Lemoine in 3rd position in LMP3 Pro-Am. And again a fight at the head of the order in GT, and Ickx is through.
She is indeed. So Vanina Ickx with... In fact, she's not leading though, because the 51 car is leading this race. No, it's not. It's more than that. What's happened there? 51 has gone ahead of both of them.
So it's Alessandro Cozzi in the 51 Ferrari that now leads Vanina Ickx. She's just passed the 17, so there's the 51 going through shot. There's not much of real estate between the front of the Porsche and the leading Ferrari.
Terence Woodward, by the way, on pit lane, as is the 29 car. So both cars carrying...
Awful luck for Terence Woodward. He lasted, the car lasted 16, 17 minutes earlier on. But into pit lane goes the 28 after that spin at the first corner. And we'll have to revisit replays to find out precisely who he tangled with at the Ferrari S. But far too early to be thinking about driver changes there as well.
Ickx pulling away from the Castellet racing car. And where was the AF Corsa car gone? That's fallen to 3rd. So it leapfrogged 2 places and has lost them again. That, unless, is it possible he cut the track and has given the places up?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe it straight-lined the first corner or a similar chicane like that and realised that that would not be allowed to be left. So has perhaps conceded those spots. Vanina Ickx, Lorenzo Innocenti are back to the 1st and 2nd place positions, therefore.
Yep, so no change in the running order of the first 4 or 5 cars. We get down to some solid speed. Early change, by the way, in that Ferrari before we went back to green is Colin Noble has moved ahead of the Ginetta. So up into 11th place, 10th place rather, for the Nielsen Racing number 7 car. This is the train of GT3 cars. Ickx in the Iron Dames Porsche leading stream of Ferraris. Kessel Racing 17 from the 51 AF Corsa car, and then the 33 Kessel. Provo is pulling away here in the lead of this race, in this early running. After that early interruption of the safety car, multiple incidents. Colin Noble fancying a go here and does it, passing the number 97 CLX racing car. So good form here from Colin in the Ades in the early running of this race.
He's one of only a couple of golds in the entry, and they've plugged him in for the starting stint. Tom Fleming, therefore, still to come. The other car that features a gold is the 97 CLX, but that's been started by the silver for Cedric Ultramar. So David Drew will ultimately take over once Cedric's done his 50 minutes and the car comes in for a stop.
I know we're going to focus a little on the Tour Ades and the Ginetta. Perhaps more than sometimes their racing positions might validate. Out comes the 29 car after that repair. Still damaged, by the way, to that rear corner. There's bodywork flapping. reason we're going to focus on some of them is because we know for an absolute fact the fans are loving the variety. Up the inside, back to the lead for the 17. Innocenti on Vanina Ricks.
And how far back is Alessandro Cozzi?
Not
now?
far.
Just right with them, I would
Less than
wager.
a second.
Now the pressure's being applied by the 92 Forestier Racing of Charles Roussin. Roussin on the tail of Hugo Schwarzer. This is for 4th and 5th places. So Schwarzer in the 85 with the pink mirrors. And therefore, Roussin is in an RHGP sandwich because Edgar Pierre is just in behind. And there's been a moment for the 85, and that may well mean that Roussin can pick the car off. Yes, he can. Coming out of turn 6, so just a little bit too deep as far as I could tell into turn 5, or was there some contact?
I didn't see the contact, but it's also left the RHGP 85 vulnerable to attack from the sister car, the 86, and there's further bodywork all over the road on the run down to the chicane, and I don't think it's going to be long before we have an intervention for that.
Yeah, it's fine if you are out front in your category and you've got clear line of sight of that, but if you're jinking with fellow competitors, you could easily whack it with very little warning. It's what remains of the back of the 29 car.
That's not going to play well. The car's been on pit lane.
And was potentially doing damage to the rear left tyre of that. Well, now the bodywork's no longer there, but it has caused a problem for everybody else. So debris being reported now on the Mistral straight. Yellow flags in the affected area, which is in the braking zone or just before it for the chicane. The problem is the high-speed approach. You've got very little time to react if you spot that last minute.
Well, I would say there is quite a gap in traffic right now. So 64 car last in the train passing now.
Yes.
And the next car along is only at turn 2. So if race control of the Marshals Post deem it's possible to collect that without further intervention, they may choose to do so.
True, and the radio messages need to be as clear as possible, but there is lots of time now.
Deploy full course yellow.
10, 10 is coming.
9,
I think that's the correct
8,
decision.
7,
well,
6,
yeah, I mean,
5,
looking at
4,
how
3,
distance is fair,
2,
going around
1,
the slower
full
speed
course yellow
corners
is
all very
deployed.
well,
Full course yellow is deployed. Exit T7, bear totally left. Exit T7, bear totally left until T8.
This is 80 kilometers per hour, no more, no less, and should mean that the gaps are retained that we had going into this caution. The sorry sight of the pole-sitting car in LMP3 Pro Am now up on its jacks outside the garage, and it looks like that 28 car is out for good.
So it did look as if that car was collected. We didn't see the contact. There is one of our marshals to collect the debris from the 29 car. Meantime, by the way, further progress before we went into full course yellow. Another place gained by Colin Noble in the Odessa, up into 9th place now. So it's a good start to the race, albeit with the gold driver.
There was Mark van der Schnell on the tail
at 17:04:15, we will be removing full course yellow. In 30 seconds, we will be removing full course yellow.
RHGP entries, number 88, running in 5th place in Pro-Am. But it's a class led by Julien Le Mans, who was dominant in qualifying in Barcelona. The 84 car charging its way to
we will be removing full course yellow in 10,
blue
9,
and red Rinaldi
8,
Racing car,
7,
71.
We're going to be back to green flag
5,
racing in about 5
4,
seconds time,
3,
which is the good news.
2,
the debris
1,
has been dealt with as
full
we
course
saw.
yellow has been removed.
So meanwhile, Colin Noble's ready to go again, and he does. Grabs another place.
On the Gebhardt number 70. So that was Valentino Catalano not reacting quite as well to coming out of the full course yellow as Colin did. I liked how he positioned his car there as well. More damage, this time to the 64, which is the M Racing car of Michael Doppelmayr. And is that as a result of some contact picked up in the starting incident, or is that far more fresh, far more recent? Try and pick that one, or rather unpick that one in the next few laps. CLX Motorsports' Pierre-Alexandre Provost is 2.6 seconds ahead of Bence Valant, and that's the benefit of a full course yellow, remember, because the gap was about that going into it, or about 1.5 seconds in fact, and it is now 1.5 seconds coming out on lap 7. We've had nearly 20 minutes of this race. It has been incident-packed so far, but let's take this moment to head to Steph Wentworth in the garages.
I'm joined by Terence Woodward, driver of the number 28. It's such a shame that it's happened again, once more. And I feel the frustration coming from you that it's ended like this.
Yeah, you know, twice I've been on the front row. I'm driving clean, just in a straight line down into turn 1, and someone's just ploughed into the back of me. Sorry, the side of me, sort of the right rear. So it's extremely disappointing.
Very frustrating, but you've got a lot of pace, and we can see that carrying from both Barcelona and here in the Castellet. What can you take on to the next rounds?
Thank you, yeah. You know, the pace has been great. We just want to translate that into some points, you know, and a good finish. My teammate hasn't got in the car for his stint 2 times running. He's got all his sponsors and family here, so I'm a little frustrated at the moment.
Hopefully we see a turn for you next round. Thank you.
Hope so. Thank you.
That's a real shame. Tim Merrieux, he talks about his teammate. As he said, lots of friends, sponsors. He's French, is Tim, so he will have brought a lot of family members with him, and they don't even get to see him behind the wheel of car number 28. So we share Terence's frustration. Still quite difficult to work out precisely which car it was that was involved.
It was a white car, certainly a light-coloured car. Remarkably, Johnny, we've got debris at the same position again. So I think we're going to be going back to full course yellow to collect that, because that has already been collected by multiple
At 17:07 and 15 seconds, we will be deploying a full course yellow
car deconstructing at the same place. We are going to go back to full course yellow in about 20 seconds time to collect that. By the way, thank you, Terence. That can't have been easy to give a measured response to that in these circumstances.
We will be deploying full course yellow in 10,
drivers
9,
for a
8,
reason, and
7,
he's just displayed why.
6,
and,
5,
you know,
4,
he's absolutely correct.
3,
2 fantastic
2,
qualifying
1.
performances.
Full course yellow is deployed.
At the moment, I'm edging towards the ANS Motorsport car that it may have been, only because that was starting right behind Terence. It's now in the hands of Julien Lemoine. I'm just searching through race control messages to see whether an incident involving car 28 and 84 is being looked at. It's not on the messages we've been shown so far, but there is time yet to get to that.
I've had to do lists like that. You'll get to it eventually.
Yeah. Weeks in advance now. We'll get an answer by the end of the day, and no doubt before the end of the, or at least an indication that it's being looked at before the end of the race.
So, we are now 22 minutes into this race. 1 safety car, 2 full course yellows. Did we have a safety? We didn't have a safety car, did we?
Yes.
Yes, and 2 full course yellows. Just had deja vu for a moment. So, a rather deconstructed Michelin Le Mans Cup race to this point.
We had just over 11 minutes of a safety car, and now 2 full course yellows, the first of which was about 90 seconds, and this will probably be about the same, I would imagine, because at least at this speed, you know, you can see a gap, from a marshalling perspective, you can see a gap a long way down the Mistral straight, and you know the speed of the cars as well.
And more to the point, they can see you. You know, you've just seen an excellent example of what this is about. It is about not putting track workers at risk. That's it. Nothing else matters as much as that in these circumstances. You want a clean, safe track surface. The answer to that lies with the remarkable men and women in orange that do service to motorsport around the world. And the duty of race control in that instance is get the work done, but get it done in safety. And if we've got to have an interruption to do that, then that's fine. That's a very small price to pay.
The 30 car has made a pit stop, and actually they've done a driver change there as well. I'm just making sure that that is confirmed. Yes, Thomas Imborg has taken over the car.
Car 64, please bring your car in to fix the rear part of it. 64, please bring the car in to fix it.
On today, the medics were called, and we think he went to the medical centre just for a check over, but was judged fit to race. He started that car, but they've already done a driver change there, which rather suggests they might be switching back to Roger at some point. Well, yeah, because first of all, Roger's not done enough time, but also, to my mind, the official pit stop that has to happen in this race normally has to include a driver change and a refuel and potentially a tyre change as well for it to be a proper pit stop.
It does indeed. So it won't be long under full course yellow. There might well be some other bits and bobs that race control want clearing up. Certainly were at least 2 locations we did that under the last full course yellow. And we can get back to full race green. CLX Motorsport lead the race. ANS Motorsport lead LMP3 Pro Am in a 17th overall, and Kessel Racing 17. Ferrari leads LMP GT3. In comes the 64 car. This is Michael Doppelmayer's car. So we'll look at the rear of that car to see just how much damage there is. That's plenty.
So taking what remains of
We
the
will be
wheel
removing
arch
full course yellow
away,
at
as long as the
17,
legality
11
panel,
and
that's the bit that
45
has the
seconds.
tail
In
line
30
still
seconds,
intact,
we will be removing
that should
full
be
course
okay
yellow.
to send out now, even though the rear tyre is heavily exposed.
That's the concern I've got. The rear tyre is heavily exposed.
Yeah, well, you get that a lot in single-seater racing, and it seems fine. I mean, the problem is when wheels tangle.
Yes.
We will be removing full course yellow in 10,
they don't weigh a great
9,
deal, these LMP3s.
8,
We're going
7,
back to green flag
6,
racing in about
5,
5 seconds time,
4,
Johnny, and hopefully
3, 2,
a lengthy period of green
1.
flag
Full
running
course
from
yellow
now on in.
is removed.
So what's the restart like between Lena Bühler and Charles Roussin? Roussin right on the bootlid then of the red and white number 50 car for 23 events racing, but the Swiss racer does get the marginal better getaway.
Lena Bühler's been quick in this car. They had an interrupted start to their race in Barcelona, but thereafter she was impressive.
Yeah, the free practice sessions are always an indication as to who might be quick through the course of a weekend, and in Barcelona certainly one of those sessions was topped by both drivers from the number 50 car. Matteo Quintarelli again has been somebody to measure yourself against. Bühler's times have been there or thereabouts, middle order.
Yep.
So she'll do the hard work in this opening stint, and then generally speaking the cars will be handed over to the qualifying drivers that we had in LMP3. Remember, there is a restriction in the sense that you can only use a silver driver, but then that means all the pace has been quickened compared to the LMP3 Pro-Ams, which is bronze only. Just like the GT3 cars as well, they have to be qualified by the non-pro.
EP Motors, their very colourful Porsche, do like that livery. Being tracked by the 65 Motor Park AMG, like a Neumann. Take up the chase once again. Almost half an hour gone of the allotted 2 hours for this race. Leave the race still in the hands of the 17 Kessel Racing car. Lorenzo Innocenti being tracked by Vanina Ricks. Pierre-Alexandre Provo, by the way, unfazed by this. The intermittent nature, shall we say, of the action. Almost 3 seconds to the good, driving away from the chasing Reiter car. Lena Bühler pretty equidistant back in third, under pressure from Charles Roussin. They've gapped Hugo Schwarzer in the first of the 2 RSGP cars, which are lapping in formation. Looked almost as if the rear end was getting away from the EP Motors car. I think it was actually an optical illusion.
I don't know, looked a little bit skittish through the rest of Bose as well, with Fabrizio Broggi doing the driving for ME Motors. So Broggi of Romania and his teammate Sergei Nicolai will be taking over as well in due course.
There may be problems ahead. What's we've got there? This is a change between the 97 car going by the Gebhardt number 70. So these are the 2 cars behind Colin Noble's number 7 Ades. You can see the middle of the screen there with the blue headlamps. And now we've got a little bit of Catch Me If You Can.
So Ultramare in the middle of the track, and around the outside will go the Gebhardt car to get the place back again. Terrific racing from Valentino Catalano in his Ducati. So later on the brakes, around the outside. I thought Ultramar was slightly out of position, but he gains a place and he loses it straight away.
Go. Noble, by the way, has gapped this pair. Just looking where Colin's next target would be. His next target is the NS Motorsport number 6 of Marcus Pommer. He's got 2.2 seconds to find that gap to get the Odessa up a further position up the order. Can he do that? It's all about mileage, it's all about experience with the car, it's finding the pace with these new packages for teams. Jink to the inside, well that's not going to work, is it? That is Breton Racing, 62 car off track. Can't do that, Sunshine.
Yeah,
now
so
Writer Engineering off the track to the opposite side, and actually does get a place. Courtesy of the mistake from the 77 car. Mark van der Snel right with this group, looking for a way past the 77, under pressure from the 88. This is a battle with significant positions in LMP3 Pro-Am up for grabs. And Duquesne up the inside of the sort of Duracell liveried motorsport car. Mark van der Snel comes back, threads the needle in a little bit of irritation, I think, and tucks back in behind the RHGP car, and I think he's going to get the position back in the turn one. He does.
So much momentum around this track. If you lose it in any one corner, then that could be you done for the next 3 or 4. And there were several examples of that, really, in one sector. With all sorts of craziness happening, and Mark van der Snel I thought was going to be the big winner in that, but then around the outside, which became the inside, was the RHGP car that was doing battle with him. RHGP's Romano Ricci having a good fight therefore with the Dutchman in the more motorsport car. Shahan Sarkisian's not that far away either in the number 31 CD Sport car. The rebuilt CD Sport number 30 is still pounding round, and Thomas Imborg actually a little bit quicker than his teammate, as now we get a best lap in GT3 so far from Philippe Saga in his Code Racing Development Aston Martin.
Yeah, the car's been pretty quick, the team picking up experience with every lap, as we said earlier about some of the LMP3 teams as well. Quicker laps coming now, purple sectors coming from the leader in sector 1. In fact, fastest lap of the race, a 1:59.417 from the leader. Gap now over 4.5 seconds. And in the chase in third, with who now gets the quickest lap of the race. Following through, Charles Roussin in the Forestier Racing Vibe VPS cars, beginning to get onto terms with the second place car from Writer Engineering.
So race leader heading into Virage du Camp corner in the hands of Pierre-Alexandre Provost. Then it is 4 seconds back, Benz Valent in a Writer Engineering Ligier, but Charles Roussin now the quickest car out there. And meanwhile, one of the Odessa, which is the sister car, isn't it?
That's Mikkel Christensen. That is, I think, the 29 car that was, my apologies, 64 car, Michael Doppelmayr. He was giving this 20 car clattering across the curbs, also trying to get by Doppelmayr.
So Julien Lemoine leading in 84, leading Pro-Am that is, and he's not a million miles away from Mikkel Christensen's Odessa, car number 4. He's ahead on the road of it.
The 64 car is something that moving chicane here at the moment.
So everyone having to just be patient, work their way by at the next possible opportunity, but all over the curb there was Mark van der Snel, and he nearly lost the car in the process. Now van der Snel's going to be under pressure from Romano Ricci as they head for the chicane this next time around.
Evelina Rix, and there's quite a gap now. She's in second place, 3.5 seconds back from the Castrol Racing 17. And it's the 51 of Alessandro Cozzi who's in close proximity to the Iron Dames car. 3.3 seconds the gap through the last timing beam in the lead of GT3.
There was a quick glimpse of Romano Ricci's number 31 car just creeping through not Romano Ricci, sorry, the 31 car of Shahan Sarkisian for CD Sport, and he is behind the 99 of Mark van der Snel. So that's a battle for 6th and 7th in Pro-Am.
Meantime, another fastest lap of the race immediately goes to the race leader, but then is matched and bettered by third place Charles Roussin, who is closing getting ever closer to Bence Valent in the Reiter Engineering number 25. This is a battle right now for second position.
Merest bit of tyre smoke from the number 16 Team Virage car, and the 16 is doing okay at this stage.
Yeah, looking to get onto terms with Freddie Tomlinson in the Ginetta immediately ahead of him.
So Sasha Lehmann in for the opening stint. Freddie's in 12th, Lehmann 13th. And then Thomas Imborg, who's been setting good times for CD Sport, the next car. The Ginetta heading down the straight in the hands of Freddie Tomlinson then. Tucked in behind, he's got a couple for company, including the re-nosed number 30 CD Sport.
Well, Deco Engineering looking for mileage, looking to find performance, looking to learn about this car. Unique car in ACO rules racing this season for DKR, car in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, another in the European Le Mans Series, and both cars will be at the Road to Le Mans this year. Back to GT3 action, EB Motors, and this is the other Kessel car. This is the battle for 4th place.
Yeah, so Murat Chuadaroglu has been making progress from the rear of the field. Remember, he started 8th, he's now up to 4th position. So this is an impressive stint. He's 7 seconds to try and find on Alessandro Cozzi. So that could be a much longer wait. Colin Noble passing again.
No, he's
under pressure.
Under pressure from the CLX car that he passed, what was it, 4 or 5 laps ago under racing conditions. And he's going to lose that position to the number 97 car. He's under pressure as well from the Breton Racing car behind. New fastest lap of the race, by the way, goes to Louis Rousset in the 29 Forestier Racing by VPS car in 40th place.
Wow. So you've got to look up and down this order. Noble's lost another position, this time to a Breton Racing car. So was that, he didn't really get much curb. I thought he might have been a bit wider than that to therefore put himself on the back foot. Yes, as wide as that from the 16 Virage car. Now a very good run for the Forestier Racing 92. As it heads towards the right-hander at Senior and is fighting with the 25. So this is the battle for second position. Reiter in second, Forestier in third in the hands of Charles Roussin. No place changes just yet. And the race leader, Pierre-Alexandre Provost, will be loving hearing news about this, because all it's doing is extending the gap from the first to this second place fight. Something else may have happened out on track, because there was a brief indication of yellow flags. That was at turn 15. So did we have a spinner at Virage Dupont? Here we go, right on cue. Aston Martin down the inside of the Motor Park Mercedes.
And that's why it was the Motor Park car being sent around by the Code Racing Aston. Car back on track to another fastest lap of the race from Louis Rousset, who is absolutely flying, but is a lap down, of course. Meantime, by the way, the got yellows at turn 11 now.
Oh, that's a cracking overtake for second position from so far back, but we've seen it many times through the years. This is the carnage potentially kicking off as well elsewhere on the circuit. It turns 6 and 7. Oh, and there's damage to the front of the EBI Motors Porsche for Fabrizio Proggi. Let's just clear up what happened for second place. Charles Roussin for Forestier Racing charging down the inside of Bence Valent to get second place away from the Reiter Engineering car. Meanwhile, EBI Motors...
He hit the rear of the 58 car, and then as it spun around, so he definitely hit the rear of the 58. As it spun around, he ran over the top of the front of it.
And then, elsewhere, there was more contact and 2 spins, synchronised spinning.
That's 20 from High Class Racing, and that is the 4 Nielsen Racing Ades. Both appear to have continued but trouble of a terminal nature, I'm afraid, for EP Motors car. Full course yellow is coming.
So Philip Lindberg in the 20 and the 4 car of Mikkel Christensen were involved there. And it's going to be, yes, a full course yellow. I'm guessing to deal with the Porsche and maybe the debris that's been left on the racetrack, certainly at turn 5, and probably after those 2 LMP3s got together as well.
Absolutely. So it's going to take a little wee while to get that Porsche to replace a safety. It's at a fire marshal's post, but I don't think there's a gap enough to get it behind the barrier. Full course yellow comes out now. When we go back to green, Johnny, the thing to watch is the gap for the lead, because Charles Roussin has been absolutely flying. He made that brilliant pass for second place on Reiter Engineering's number 25 car. And you watch again here. I think you'll see the impact to the rear of that car first. There was definitely a touch there. Car went wide and then bang. I'm fairly certain the Porsche unsettled the 58.
It's very difficult to tell from that angle. I couldn't say either way, to be honest. I was just trying to see whether there were any clues to damage on the rear of the 58 that would have been the telltale. But yes, it may have been self-induced. It might have been that certainly the Porsche caught the curb, which unsettled it, but I don't know whether the GT Classics car lost it on its own. You can't tell from that angle, but I hear what you're saying. Anyway, the Porsche's out is the net result. And they may well look at that from different angles within race control to, well, you can't really penalise the Porsche because it's likely to be out of the race.
Yeah.
Oh, it has resumed.
Resumed?
It's apparently resumed and is now running slowly, so we'll wait to see. Was it not on the end of a tow road? Anyway.
There's that pass for second. What a pass that was.
Excellent. I mean, that's the sort of thing you might see in the second stint when the silvers and the golds have taken over.
Yeah, you might well. You might well.
Oh, mind you, they are silvers. What am I talking about? Charles Roussin and Ben Svalart, they are silvers. So this is what I've got to get used to.
No,
No.
it's behind.
It was running slowly, but it was running slowly behind the barrier, just to get it to a safe location. So good are the GPS systems on these cars.
Yeah, memories of covering the Nürburgring 24 hours with you, Johnny, and the GPS trackers still showing as they're being taken on the country roads on the back
At
of the flatbed.
17:28, we will be removing full course yellow. In less than 30 seconds, we will be removing full course yellow.
We're going back to green flag running in about 20 seconds.
Okay, so how is your alignment for the car then? Because I mean, look at the difference in driver eye level
removing full
between
course
an
yellow
LMP3
in
and
10,
the Mercedes.
9,
and there are
8, 7,
positions within
6,
GT cars even higher
5,
up than that Merc.
4,
But
3,
unfortunately
2,
for Fabrizio
1,
Broggi,
full course yellow is removed. Full course yellow
sorry
is
state of that battered and bruised Porsche. We're back underway, all over the curve goes the 25 car to try and get that place back again for second position. Ben Svalent was not particularly happy with the overtake, even though we were crediting it as superb, and he will actually concede that ground.
Has to. He
back
was off.
again.
He was off track.
He was well off the road.
Yes. I think he just wanted to keep away from any potential contact there, but back we go to green flag running. The gap to watch here is up the inside. There's contact again with the AMG, this time for the second place car, and this time, I'm sorry, but that was not a gap.
Well, Forestier Racing and Charles Roussin, together with Ben Svalent in his Reiter Engineering car, they know they are in an almighty tussle here, and they're feeling like there's not a moment to lose, but sometimes you've got to just rein back the aggression if you can. And yeah, I agree. You don't want to ruin a GT race through, just trying to get the odd 100th of a second here and there.
Poor old motor park, second time in 2 laps they've been hit. This, I think, is our race leader making his way through. The gap, by the way, across the line as we've gone green, 8.5 seconds. That's the gap to watch. And that little tussle with the AMG will not have helped Charles Roussin in that pursuit. Watch this again. No.
Yeah, okay. Again, I can see both sides of that, but the Mercedes has to turn into the corner at some point. So
other lines are available.
True, and you could allow the Mercedes to cut across your bows and then attempt to go around the outside of the exit of Beausset, by which point you might have lost the position. However, there's still an hour and 16 minutes to go, so there's plenty of chance to get it back again.
Absolutely get it. It's a battle for second place overall. It's been cut and thrust, but
you have to be confident that the GT driver has seen you, and
he's ahead. He's ahead.
Yeah.
It is not his job to make space for you.
No, but the confusing thing might have been the Mercedes is making space for me, and then at the last minute it pulls across, but you cannot say, oh, right, well, I'm just going to go for it and hope for the best.
Car 83, that is the Iron Dames. It's a drive-through penalty for causing a collision at T5, and that will be the incident with the GT Classics car.
The other thing that was happening was that Chequered's Ferrari is now under pressure from Philippe Saga. Well, I'd mentioned Saga was a short time ago the fastest GT car in the race. I think that's still
the case. 26, he's still very quick indeed.
Yeah, well, pressurising that red Ferrari for 4th position now.
Absolutely.
So the two of those right together. Gap at the head of the order in GT3 is reasonably comfortable for Innocenti. It's a couple of seconds.
This is Colin Noble under pressure from the Breton racing car. I think that position has changed. Hayden Chance has gone back ahead of, or has gone ahead of Colin Noble, who's dropped that back now to 10th position. Charge from the Adesse beginning to fade.
Here we go. Yeah, this is what I was concerned about for Chequered, is that Philippe Saga was coming on an absolute tear, and down the inside goes the Aston Martin. Contact free, very refreshing, and gets the position.
Excellent stuff.
So Kotze will be the next driver on the Austrians' list. That's a fair old margin to try and catch up upon. It's verging on 14 seconds.
Yeah, let's keep an eye on that one as well, though. Meantime, leader is still extending that gap from Charles Groussin. 9 seconds to good now, Pierre-Alexandre Provost. This is the number 87 car in pretty splendid isolation. He's just put a lap on the 3rd place GT3 car. And is having a very good race.
Here is Julien Lemoine leading in the Pro-Am part of P3. Got a decent lead over Stefan Aust, and in fact has now put the Ginetta of Freddie Tomlinson. Oh no, Tomlinson's falling down the order.
What's going on here?
He's lost 3 places in the 4 places. And the must be stopped.
The Gebhard car is in trouble as well. That's the 70 car, but there's also been... Oh, he's just recovered it again.
So that's actually a timing
glitch.
Yeah. Fine.
Yorkshire, you can breathe again. It's part of the massive new Luxembourg-Yorkshire trading alliance, by the way. Geopolitics.
I've heard they're going to build a direct tunnel.
I'll tell you something, knowing people from Yorkshire, it'd be Luxembourg paying for it.
They were going to build it with Yorkshire tea spoons, you know, after the stirring the pot. Then dig your way to Luxembourg. Hey, there's a chance for a Ginetta bilateral deal.
Gebhard car is indeed just falling down the order. Valentino Catalano's car, I think their race may well be run. Lena X will have to bring the car in shortly. There's another car with rear end damage. It's the 58 car.
GG Classics.
Nothing to do with me, by the way. And there goes the Galaxy panel with cheese.
More of a problem now because they haven't got the cheese wedge to affix to the car. They have to try and find a spare because they do have to be present, and ideally by the end of the race.
Lena X will be ruining this penalty because she's caught the leader again. Having got, what, 3 seconds back, she's caught the leader again and will now have to roll down pit lane. Now, what about, how much damage is that going to do? Quite a lot in terms of track position. I would expect we'll see the 83 car on pit lane this time around. CLX Motorsports gap beginning to come down now. We've got double yellows, turn 8 and 9. That will be, I'm sure, for the number 70 car.
No further action regarding the rest of the start. Did you read that one out?
I did see it. So that rather suggests that the
contact that Terence Woodward was talking about, I don't think we ever had a message to say that that was being looked
Well,
at.
would they regard that as the start, or does that mean turn 1?
Yeah, true. I still can't see anything listed regarding those, well, his car, 28, and potentially the 84. That's mainly of interest because the 84 is now the race leader in LMP3 Pro-Am, so if it is to be penalised, that would dramatically change the order of the cars in the secondary category. Here comes Vanina X then, down pit road to serve a drive-through, causing the collision at turn 5, a reminder of it.
Impact there, big impact there. And that leaves the rear three-quarters view of the 83 car looking like a Lego Technic set at the moment.
Stood up to the damage rather well, though.
She's emerged just behind fifth place now.
Yeah.
Could be worse. Could be worse.
Well, with Marta Garcia still to come in that car, and she was fast in Barcelona before the inevitable that we all know about, but prior to that had looked rapid, so she'd be just eager to get behind the seat of a car in a race so that she can show again precisely what they're intending to do across the season, because the 83 is definitely in the championship shake-up, just as the 85 Iron Dames Porsche is in the European Le Mans Series, having taken the opening victory in the 4 Hours of Barcelona a few weeks ago. But Lorenzo Innocenti in the 17 Ferrari leads by 9 seconds over Alessandro Cozzi. Philippe Saga for Code Racing Developments, Aston Martin still pounding round as well. Another pit caller, but this will be for a scheduled stop. Philip Lindbergh is in, and we have now had 50 minutes of the race, so that counts as a stint time. You can change your driver from this point onwards, and you want to be doing it in the next 20 minutes to ensure that the ingoing driver also gets the minimum of 50 minutes.
Colin Noble about to lose another position. That's going to be down to 12th position now for the Team Virage car.
So 3 cars all pitting. We've got Inter-Europol Competitions number 34 for Ari Balog. Philip Lindbergh is in, as mentioned, for high-class racing. Mark Patterson's high-class racing car stops, as does the race leader in GT3.
No, not race leader.
Sorry, no.
Second place, because the 17 car is some positions ahead of the 51 car. Yep. 17 Kessel Racing leads. 83 Iron Dames Vanina X is on pit lane now as well. We're about to get a battle here, perhaps just before the pit stops, with Colin Noble in the Ades being caught now by Freddie Tomlinson in the DKR Engineering Ginetta. Colin's had the more rapid start, but has then dropped back into it. Here is the Porsche. I'm sure they'll take a quick look at that. Right, hang on. Dolly, is that Dolly's just a reposition?
Yes. Because one of their near neighbours has pitted as well.
Yep, that's exactly right. I was panicked to see a Dolly coming out.
Well, it's the Nürburgring way of making a pit stop. You come in at a 45-degree angle, and during the pit stop, the car is rotated to put it at the opposite 45-degree angle to give it the best angle of attack. Marta Garcia waiting for her chance to get in. The seat insert obviously has to be offered up first of all.
Strong run from Vanina. Big mistake has cost them dearly with this. Drive-through penalty, by the way, coming the way of car 20 after that collision with the other Nielsen Ades that we saw earlier with near coordinated spins. Her pace, though, is very good. And I think that's a great message out there to maybe some female drivers that have raced before, gone away, and think you're coming back into motorsport. Yes, you can be competitive. Please come back. That's a big part of the enigma about getting women into and back into motorsport, is just the way the nuclear family works. But Vanina at 50 years old, showing that she has lost none of the fire in her belly, and great to see that for the second race consecutively, running very competitively. She'll be kicking herself about the mistake.
True, but she's now taken the medicine. She's served the penalty, and you know, we kind of restart. They're still just about in the mix. It's looking not so great at the moment, only because the leader in GT3 has not made a pit stop. So Lorenzo Innocenti will be in shortly. By the way, if the work has stopped and the car's not been sent, that's not a bad thing. All of these cars having to do their times to a minimum reference time, which I noted down earlier on in the weekend and now completely forgotten, but I can find it relatively shortly.
2 minutes 40.
That sounds about right. Let me just confirm. It is. Good memory. 2 minutes 40.
I can tell you of the teams that have completed those stops. We've just seen the Iron Dames car emerge with Martin Garcia at the wheel, 2:42. Spot on from the number 33 Castle team, 2 minutes and 40, 2:41, 2:42, 2:41. They're learning fast, these teams. This is a crucial part of the discipline here. Now, Vanina, and there she is, she will be irritated with the mistake, but she'll know she was on the pace. I think the team are going to be delighted with this signing. And I think they'll be delighted for several reasons. She's a proper bronze at 50 years old. She's got proper pace. And their garage is just a little way around from our studio. And whilst I've been on the phone or just watching the way that the teams conduct themselves, she's been exemplary. People are coming to say hello, and she's got a smile for everybody and time for everybody, and that's another big part of what this is about. It's a race team, and they're very serious about it, but it's an outreach program as well.
True.
And it's doing fantastic work with that.
Yeah. And so often for successful racing drivers, your race weekend is about the balance between some public appearance, some certainly addressing with fans, but then you've got to also make sure you're in the briefings at the right time and all that information is translated, exchanged. Good fighting between the 34 Inter-Europol competition car and the 49 high-class racing. And both of these, certainly the 49 has made a pit stop. That's now Anders Fjordback at the wheel. Garrett Grist taking over the 34 car from Ari Balog. So both have made their, what should be single stops. Now the race leader in LMP3 Pro-Am comes into pit lane. This is Julien Lemoine then to hand over the 84 car to Paul Trajani. Again, someone else familiar from the Ligier European Series ranks.
Motorsport 98 on pit lane. I think that was Eric de Donker to start that car, so it will be Gillian Henrion, I believe, taking the car out for the second half of this race.
Yeah, so has been a busy day for the young Frenchman to be dealing with both major championships.
Great to see that. Bumped into him and his father in Bahrain, and he was worried, had nothing signed, nothing for the year. And now with two great deals, see him in the European Le Mans Series and the Michelin Le Mans Cup. This race settling down a little. CLX Motorsport lead the race, but by a decreasing margin. It's now 7.2 seconds.
Something happened between the Aston Martin and the Ferrari last time through Virage de l'Hôtel. Down the inside went Chouadaroglu to get the place back again at turn 5.
It's not Chouadaroglu anymore, is it?
Probably won't be, no. So
it's David Fumanelli.
And
it's Rory van der Steur in the number 11 now. US racer from the IMSA program, the Van der Steur Racing Squad. Another second generation, at least, racer.
The car we're waiting to stop in GT is the 17, which is now in. So Lorenzo Innocenti from the lead of the class. This car will be taken over by Andrea Bellicchi.
And number 97 CLX Motorsport car. Cedric Ultramar brings that car in. We wait for the lead group to start making their pit stops here, Johnny.
Well, the leader in Pro-Am has stopped, and this again will be 2 minutes 40 or longer, ideally bang on the nose though of the 2 minutes and 40 seconds, just like so many managed to do in GT.
A couple of longer stops, by the way, to just report.
Yes.
Which is the Rousset stop in the 29 car, but I think that was the stop there where they did the repair the damage, wasn't it?
Yeah, so
in comes the 77 car. My apologies.
They probably haven't done. No, they haven't done the driver change stop yet because Rousset's still in the car.
Lost Philippa from second in LMP3 Pro-Am as this LMP3 salad sort of gets itself sorted. Colin Noble, the latest to get a warning flag for track limits as he tries to push on in the Adesse. That is the other Adesse on pit lane, the number 4 car, Michael Christensen.
So Beliki is installed into the number 17 Kessel Racing Ferrari, and just going to wait to allow them to go through the next split, but has retained the lead by the early look of that. Eliseo Dono in the AF Corsa Ferrari up to second, with David Fuminelli in his Kessel Racing Ferrari third. So it's 3 296s now at the sharp end of GT3.
It is. Just looking where we've got the Iron Dames here, because I know there's a lot of people following that that story. Back in 5th place, the gap to the leader is 28 seconds. The leader, Andrea Beliki, now in the number 17 Kessel Racing car. Then Eliseo Dono in the AF Courses 51. David Fuminelli in the 33 Kessel. Rory van der Steur is the next target for Marta Garcia, and that gap is 4 seconds. We'll keep an eye on that one.
Axel Noss into the race after Marcus Pommer bailed out of the number 6 car from ANS Motorsport.
3 wide here. So got a little close a couple of times into that little selection of lines and apexes. And
as we tick over half distance, good dicing between the 2 German marques. Mercedes up against Porsche. The Motor Park car then, which is now in the hands of Lucas Dunner.
Well, that's what I didn't look at, was it? Which was the car behind, and Lucas Dunner has gone by Marta Garcia. So that's put the 83 car down by 1 position. Too busy looking forwards. Car 74, meanwhile, gets a 5-second time penalty added to a next pit stop or to the race time for a full course yellow infringement. So car 74, the Team Virage car, Samir Ben at the wheel of that car.
After a lock-up, the 6 car straight lining the chicane. One of those white, red and black cars that are so difficult to tell apart, but it could be the ANS colours. Slotted back in again, just ahead.
97, it's the 6 car, it is.
Yeah, okay.
Axel Noss.
So Axel Noss just taking over that car, and this was the moment where the tyres cried enough and had to straight line the chicane. Kind of retained his position, which he might just get away with. And car 74 is going to have a 5-second time penalty added. I just mentioned that.
That's all right.
So we can
latest
gloss
pit stopper,
over it.
the 50 car of Lena Bühler. 23 Events Racing. Also on pit lane now is Colin Noble after his fiery stint aboard the Adesse. Car 71 is another car to have a full course yellow 10-second time penalty added. 71 is the Rinaldi Racing car that sits at the moment 3rd in LMP3 Pro-Am in the hands of Felipe Fernandez-Laza. That will drop him 1 place right now.
Joel Granfors of Sweden takes over from Edgar Pierre in the 86 RAce GP car. Other stoppers within LMP3 have not actually included the top few in the class and therefore the overall leaders. So Pierre-Alexandre Provost was still waiting for a pit stop there.
Another penalty coming, and it is for the LMP3 Pro-Am leader, Ben Stone, on pit lane now, but it's going to be 5 seconds added if they've got the message in time to this stop. Now, he has got quite the advantage here at the moment. So we'll see what that does to the Breton Racing number 62's position in this race. Team go to work. Reigning Asia Le Mans Series champions, Breton Racing. 5 season this year. On 31. Another good overtake there. Was for which position? Was for 6th in Pro-Am, 20th overall. A further position gained since then by the number 10 car. This is the lead battle in GT. Castellet versus AF Corsa. Massive rivals in Ferrari customer racing.
Yes.
Usually, usually in good spirit, usually.
Well, Alessio Dono wants to come out of the incident in Barcelona, ideally with a race victory to show how talented he is. Yes, it was a big mistake that caused the Marta Garcia off, but if you can come back with a class victory within GT3.
But he's gone through and he's taken the race lead.
So that's the first step in the right direction. Now, what in response has Andrea Bellicchi got up his sleeve? And the other thing is, David Fuminelli may well be closing in as well. He's got a reasonable margin to...
Yeah, he's coming. He's coming. He's definitely quicker than Bellicchi at the moment. Bellicchi in the 206s, 204s, the cars around him.
17 seconds adrift, but he'll eat into that.
Yeah, car 77, another penalty to do with the full course yellows. That, I think, is the Reiter Engineering car, isn't it? That's Horst Felix Felbermayer's car now. That's the 4th place car in LMP3 Pro-Am. So that's 3 top placed cars in LMP3 Pro-Am with time added. By the way, just looking, Felipe Larza did not add the 5 seconds. They came out 2 minutes and 42 seconds. So that will now be added to the end of their race time. So that means a change in leader again in LMP3 Pro-Am. ANS Motorsports' Paul Drajani now leads, but just by a handful of seconds from the charging Felipe Larza, who will need to pass and pull away from ANS Motorsport to take that win.
Thomas Imborg stays out.
Now that, remember, that's the car that had the early out-of-sequence stop.
Yeah, yes, but okay. Some of my data suggests that actually the car's not been in for a stop yet, so maybe that was just a driver ID change rather than, strictly speaking, a driver change. It's not listed as a pit stop, is it? So they must have started with Imborg rather than Artur Rodgen.
Okay.
And I'm wondering now whether they will be doing a driver change at some point.
Wonder if Artur is indeed fit to get in the car.
Well, that's another question. Yeah, true. He was down on the grid sheet as the starting driver,
yes.
And that's probably why the confusion has crept up.
So Pierre-Alexandre Prevot is on pit lane now. What was in the lead, of course. CD Sport take the lead, but we have not seen this. We don't think we've seen the other driver in that car, do we?
No, I think Imborg's been in from the start of that race. I mean, it's Imborg now. The car's not stopped. It's not been in the pits at all, according to that pit stop column.
Yeah.
So I think it has to have been Imborg from the beginning of the race. And the issue now is that they're running a little short of time. Bearing in mind, if they want to get Rodgen in for 50 minutes, then it needs to be reasonably sharpish. However, it might be that Rodgen just cannot race today.
Okay. Yellows at turn 8-9, and I think that may be the 16 car. That's Theo Mercouris on his outlap. I think he's had a bit of a moment at the chicane, but is back and running now.
Back into the race goes the number 87 car. So is this still going to be the race leader? Now in the hands of Alvis Rodea.
And Thomas Imborg, by the way, on pit lane now for that first stop that we talked about. Let's hope that Artur is okay. May just have given him a little longer to get ready for the trials ahead.
True, it could well have been that, and maybe a little easier to continue in a race rather than have to deal with the 2 rolling laps and the correct start as well. Just best perhaps to take the pressure off a little bit. However, the race is, the car's pitting from what has become the race lead for Imborg. but he will lose that to Rodea the way things are going. So Alvisa Rodea of Italy, the new pilot into the CLX Motorsport number 87, and will become the leader again. Luciano Morano for Forestier Racing by VPS up to second position shortly, and Nicholas Bourne quite possibly to third. So it's kind of as you were, including that spectacular fight between the 92 and the 25 cars that we had in the opening stint.
Indeed, this is our soon-to-be race leader once again, the 87 car. Gap to second, what will become second place, Luciano Morano, about 10.5 seconds. So that's come out a little. It's been fairly stable.
David Fuminelli's got the 17-second gap down to, I think it's 12 now, second to third still in GT.
2.5 seconds quicker on the last lap than Andrea Bellicchi. Looking behind there, Rory van der Steur not on that pace and being caught by the charging Lucas Dunner. Marta Garcia is her pace between the two, so she's catching van der Steur but not staying on terms with the AMG. Here's the number 30 car.
Good times being shown now in LMP3 Pro-Am. First of all, Antoine Ducat went quicker than anybody else in that category. Then Julien Henrion quicker still. And now dropping into the 1 minute 59s, Griffin Peebles, who you were massively bigging up during the qualifying, and quite rightly so. So car number 66 is now on a charge, but down in 10th place in LMP3 Pro-Am.
Particularly with Griffin Peebles, particularly when we watched him in the Asia Le Mans series, his race pace.
Yeah.
His qualifying pace was very good, but his race pace was extremely good. Very young man, and in the middle of his schooling, which kept him from track action here earlier in the week. But he's not showing any fear of the place at the moment. The only car on track under 2 minutes right now.
We have had a couple of 159s earlier on in the piece, but they were all from LMP3 entries rather than the Pro-Am part of the category, or Pro-Am category itself. Not seen Thomas Imborg rejoin the race, have we? So he pitted from what was the race lead.
It's about right. He's due back out any time now.
Okay.
So that's not a massive concern.
Fine. Felt like he'd been in there for slightly longer than 2 minutes 40, but maybe not.
I've been doing a similar thing, watching the delayed Forestier car, 29 car, dropping down from a quite lofty position. It's a long time in racing, with 2 minutes and 41 seconds, but yeah, we may see whether or not that car will rejoin.
So Alvise Rodea, the new race leader in the old race leading car, having taken that over then from Pierre-Alexandre Provost, who put in a really good stint. All your pit stops need to have been done by this point, because we're now inside the final 50 minutes of the race. And certainly for the majority of the field, driver 2 now safely located and keeping the crosshair narrowly trained on the checkered flag, which is many, many laps away yet, and there's scope for positional changes before the end of the race. And somebody to definitely look out for is Matteo Quintarelli now, who's taken over the 23 Events Racing number 50 car, right on the boot lid rather of Nicholas Bourne. Yeah,
there might well be positions to be made up here. First target is going to be to get into a podium scoring position. Still keep an eye on that CD Sport car, and it has not emerged.
Well, we're certainly wishing Artur Rodjan well, because it might well be that, in fact, the medics did not pass him as fit to race this afternoon, but the team didn't want to do zero running, especially because Thomas Imborg is here and raring to go. They put him in instead, but you can't do all of the race as a solo driver. That's outside of the regulations. Now,
car 50 under investigation. That's the car now in the hands of Matteo Quintarelli, but it looks like it was Lane Nebula who may have been guilty under investigation, speeding in pit lane. That's not great news for a team that look as if they've got a prospect of a podium this afternoon.
And the reason why Lena's name is next to that potential infringement is they could work out who was driving at the time of the speeding.
Pit in, not pit out.
Before the car got to the team is the suggestion there.
CLX Motorsport, by the way, Alves Rodella has just put in the fastest lap of that car's race, and it's a low 1:59. Significantly quicker, second up. Latest drive-through penalty is going to come to car 33. That is David Fuminelli. So that is a car in a podium position. That's good news for Rory van der Steur behind. And for that matter, to Lucas Dunne, who is catching Rory van der Steur. So 45 minutes to go. It is CLX Motorsports, winners last time out. Their 87 car leads the race from Forestier Racing by VPS's 92, and from the 50 car of Matteo Quintarelli, which has just taken third place from Nicolas Bourne in the Writer Engineering 25, but will now serve a drive-through.
Problems for the 26 Breton racing car of Gregory de Cyborg. I wonder whether there's an internal fire there. He was calling for the extinguishers. Gregory is out of the car, but that was all happening right in front of a battle that involves the two RHGP cars of Joel Granfors and Adrian David and David Drew.
This might need an intervention as well with where that car is.
So I was keeping an eye on the two RHGPs and David Drew's CLX, and right out of frame there, a car went straight on, and I was puzzled as to precisely what was going on.
He thinks he's got his safety car. He thinks he's got a fire on board that car.
Well,
I think he's right.
It was more about fumes, I think, and he desperately wanted the door open just to gulp in some fresh air. It's a safety car. Yeah. This late on in the race.
Now this really throws cats amongst the pigeons.
So a 12-second lead. Was it as much as 12 seconds?
It was.
For Alvisa Rodea is going to disappear. Going to disappear in a blink. Now, thankfully, Gregory de Cyborg is out of that car, but how much damage is that fire now doing to its internals? Pretty rare thing to see a fire in a cockpit like that, and he will have had an onboard extinguisher, but how long do you really want to be spending in the cockpit trying to put that fire out? Because that looks like very that's poisonous fumes, frankly, so he did entirely the right thing in clambering out of that car. And all the team can do is watch on.
Awful luck for that squad.
So that's the de Cyborg car number 26.
That's way down the order.
It is, but it's the car that Hayden Chance was driving earlier on as well.
They're trying to find, I think, the source of the fire, but they don't want to open and feed the fire.
No.
In it goes. And, yeah, well, look, fumes absolutely everywhere.
Well, these cars are now turbocharged, so...
But it's an odd place for that fire to be.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't expect, if it is a turbo fire, that it would be creeping into the cockpit like that.
Well, there's a firewall between the powertrain and that cockpit.
Yeah.
That, to me, looked like a cockpit fire.
Possibly, unless it's something that's caught fire forward of the cockpit and now is creeping into it somehow. Anyway, as that is dealt with, let's remind you of what's gone on. Today's race then at Le Castellet circuit, Paul Ricard, the return of the Michelin Le Mans Cup. We're over 1 hour into this race and under another safety car. And whilst the car that is involved is dealt with down at turn 5, a reminder of all the carnage that happened in various points at the start of the race, including a spin for Terence Woodward. He had to rejoin from the pole position. Then there was contact between two LMP3s and Vanina X's Porsche. She got a wallop, but was actually assessed as being the cause of that because she was all over the curb and cleaned out a bollard. So that pitched two cars, or one car, into a spin, which then came back to bite, and the Porsche had a bit of bodywork stripped from it. Speaking of stripped bodywork, this car got a clonk from the rear after it didn't leave the grid at the same speed as everybody else. That's the 29 Forestier by VPS car. also a tangle between the two front-engined GT cars, Aston Martin and Mercedes, and then this involving the Evi Motors Porsche wheeling its way over the front of the GT Classics LMP3 car. Now, whether the Porsche pushed that GT Classics car into a spin, we're still rather unsure about. Some great overtaking in places. This, unfortunately, was not, with some contact and two cars spinning, a Ligier and an Adès at the Double Track de Beausset. 84 Julien Le Mans established himself into a decent lead in LMP3 Pro-Am, and the early leader in LMP3 proper was the 87 car. Vanina Ricks coming in at the end of the stint with this damaged Porsche, although it was a clean break for that bodywork on the left-hand side, so it hasn't really altered the pace. Two Ferraris going hammer and tongs at the sharp end of GT3, saw the 51 charge down the inside of the Kessel Racing number 17 for a place change at the head of the order in GT3. Then there were driver changes after the minimum drive time of 50 minutes was served. Good to see that the 30 car could take the start of the race after that was damaged earlier on in the day. But CLX Motorsport appeared to have everything in hand with a lead of 12 seconds. But then this happened. The Breton Racing number 26 with a cockpit fire. It's brought out the safety car for a second time, and the lead has gone. So it's down to next to nothing for CLX Motorsports, and Alvise Rodea, with all the hard work to do after a really good opening stint from Pierre-Alexandre Provost, and of course all the gaps have condensed up and down the order. It's Luciano Marano for Ferriestier Racing in second, Matteo Quintarelli for 23 Events Racing third, Nicholas Bourne, Joel Granfors, Adrian David and David Drew. LMP3 Pro-Am, but
Quintarelli must still serve a drive-through penalty.
Yes, so that will alter the third-placed car.
Which also means this safety car is really bad news for that team, because the field is compressed.
And they can't serve the penalty under a safety car either. Oh dear. Paul Trojani in the 84 ANS Motorsport car leads LMP3 Pro-Am from Felipe Fernandez-Laza in the Rinaldi Racing number 71, and Horst Felix Felbermeyer in his Reiter Engineering car is third. So that's ANS, Rinaldi, Reiter and Racing Spirit of Le Mans, all the R's latterly for Antoine Duquin, the number 10. And then in GT3, it is Eliseo Dono, the 51 Ferrari driver, sharing that with Alessandro Cozzi, who is ahead of Kessel Racing's Andrea Bellicchi, number 17. Rory van der Steur, the Code Racing Aston Martin, fighting with Lucas Dunner in the team Motor Park 65. Now remember, there is no pass around in a Michelin Le Mans Cup race, so we could have scenarios where certain classes are slightly out of position, and we then just live with that as soon as the recovery work is completed at turn 5. So safety cars can go very much in your favour or very much against you.
Yeah, so just before we had the safety car come out, we saw David Firminelli serve a drive-through penalty. That's put that car out of the top 3. It's put the Code Racing Aston Martin in the hands of Rory van der Steur into the top 3, but he now has a charging Lucas Dunner in the Team Motor Park AMG right with him. Martin Garcia, meanwhile, has got David Firminelli right behind her. This is going to be game on again when we go back to green flag racing.
So it is nose to tail as the safety car picked up the race leader, trying to work out if anyone is obviously out of position further behind. Safety car is going to come in at the end of this lap. How are the gaps doing in GT3? Certainly the top 4 are still in contention. Marta Garcia is not that far away either. The gap actually appears between 6th place Kessel Racing and the Biogas Motorsport car, who sadly are now out of this purely because of where the safety car has landed. Speed is being governed by the CLX Motorsport driver Alvise Rodea, though, and he hits the go pedal now into turn 14, Virage Dupont. No overtaking permitted before you hit the control line, and they're all greeted by those 5 green lights then. Coming up to 10 minutes past 6 local time. Still the air temperature is very good, and now the challenge is on for second position. Are these all gold numbered cars? Not all of them are necessarily. And I say that because we can work out whether they're in LMP3 or LMP3 Pro-Am and therefore laps down. So side by side between the 20 car, which is not one of the leading runners in LMP3.
62 alongside, and that is either.
So how far back is Luciano Morano in the Forestier Racing? Oh, he's easily picked out because it's the green and black car.
There it is. He's got 2 cars between him and the leader. Watch as well in GT. I think this could be very good news for Lucas Donner in the Team Motorpark car. He had great pace coming into this safety car, and the good news for him is the gaps are down to nothing.
So, yes, it didn't go necessarily Rodea's way as the race leader. Hang on a minute. Oh, the restart, the safety. Oh no, the safety car procedure is under review for Rodea's car. So he has potentially not followed race direction instructions, not done something to the letter of the law. Couldn't immediately see a problem with the restart, but it may well be something that happened within the safety car that is now going to be looked at.
All sorts of shenanigans underway. We have effectively a 35-minute sprint to the flag here. Still 1 or 2 bits and pieces of business to be sorted out. One of them is that investigation in whatever it is into the race leader, and they've been untroubled from pretty much from the start.
Yeah. Good dicing for Inter-Europol competitions. Garrett Grist, who is in 11th position, but he has company. Ahead of him is Dane Aronson for Breton Racing, the remaining Breton Racing car. In fact, he just got ahead of Aronson into 10th position.
Car 65 is the latest car to get a time penalty, 10 seconds added. Another full course yellow issue. 65, as I check all the way down. We've got yellows at the final turn, by the way. You can keep an eye on that one as I'm just looking to see just exactly where we are with car 65. It doesn't immediately ring any bells with me.
It's clear again at turn 15.
That's the Team Motorpark car. And a drive-through penalty
for the GT3 race leader.
It is indeed.
Car 51, this is what happened at the final corner, Virage Dupont, and that's the Moore Motorsport 99 going sideways. Must have rejoined quickly because those yellows were withdrawn, but the big headline news now, Eliseo Dono is going to have to serve a drive-through penalty for a full course yellow infringement, which happened over an hour ago.
Indeed, and in addition to which, one of the other cars in contention, the 65 car, gets a 10-second penalty, which is going to drop that car behind both David Fuminelli and Marta Garcia, because David Fuminelli has taken that position. This is going to put Fuminelli back up into 3rd at worst.
And this is after Fuminelli served his penalty.
Correct.
Because the Fuminelli car, yes, has 2 pit stops to its name. One was a driver change, the other one was the drive-through. So car 33, yeah, back in the reckoning.
Well, 51 with a drive with 10 seconds added after. No, sorry, 51 gets the drive-through, doesn't it? 51 will drop out of the top 6. 65 gets 10 seconds added, and at present, that's actually further back, likely, than the 51.
And just to remind myself, the penalty for Fuminelli at the time was a drive-through. It was nothing worse than that, I don't think, was it?
It was a drive-through, yeah.
It was a drive-through for a full course yellow infringement. That was at about the same time. So they're all being mopped up from that full course yellow at just before 5:10 this afternoon.
I mean, honestly, anything could happen here in GT3 at the moment, because you then look at where the pace is right now, and Andrea Bellicchi has not been on the ultimate pace. Rory van der Steur has been typically a little quicker. Side by side now between the Code Racing car, David Fuminelli with them, and the 17 just ahead of them.
51's just come in, by the way, so Dono now serving his drive-through penalty.
So the other car that we effectively have to add 10 seconds to is the red-black, there he goes, the red and black AMG. Car 58, another 10 seconds. That's the GG Classics car, isn't it?
Yes.
So that one out of contention. But it's topsy-turvy stuff in GT3. We've got yellow flags at turn 5 at the moment. That, I think, is for the number 10 car. It is.
So it's a spin on the approach to Virage du Camp, or Camp corner.
Antoine Decain, it is in the number 10 Racing Spirit Le Mans car. Can he get that car moving? Still yellow flags. So the car has not moved yet.
31.5 minutes still to go. Those yellow flags still being displayed. They'll be displayed for a certain amount of time, and then if the car does not fully rejoin, might have to be a full course yellow again.
Full course yellow flags have come off our screen.
They have. In fact, the local yellows yet have now been removed, so that rather suggests Ducan's back on the move.
10 is shown as moving. We'll see whether or not the S on our timing screens disappears at the end of this timing section, which it should. And it is. And that's whatever's happened at turn 5 is under review, which seems to indicate there might well have been contact related for Antoine Decain, not a driver that normally makes terribly many errors, one of the more experienced of our younger drivers.
Griffin Peebles quicker again, so that's a new fastest lap within Pro-Am for the Australian and the 66 Rinaldi racing car.
They've got a lot of time to catch up here. They've been caught on the wrong lap here. Look at the gap between Griffin Peebles and Antoine Decain, and it's a mighty one. There's not a lot to be gained on pace here. We've got debris at turn 8, yellows to protect that. That's coming into the chicane.
Not for the first time, must be about the third occasion.
At least the third time.
Where that has happened in this race.
It's certainly not what you want in a braking zone. Right where we are, in fact.
Yeah. So, and again, you know, you're unsighted, you're behind fellow competitors, and you pull out for a potential overtake, and then whack, you clean out some debris that's sitting in the middle of the racetrack. Now that has been sorted by full course yellows in the past, so I wouldn't be surprised to have one of those for 90 odd seconds to retrieve the debris.
There it is, middle of the road. I've been probably working on the LMP3 cars behind there as well. He manages to duck it.
Aston Martin to the inside of the 17 Kessel racing car.
That's for the lead. That's for the lead.
So this is Rory van der Steur on a tear with Andrea Bellicchi right in front, and the Mercedes is sniffing around as well for potential race win too, but in the hands of Lucas Dunner.
But remember, that car still has a 10-second penalty to add.
True, but if it can get out front,
absolutely right,
and then cap the field.
Absolutely
I mean, it's
right.
Unlikely, but you know, you're better off trying to do that from the front than being in third position.
Max van der Steur trying to get through this fighting group of GT3s. Car 50 now, a drive-through penalty, speeding in pit lane. That is the 23 Events racing car. So we've got CLX Motorsport potentially under review here for some iteration of problem, and now problem for the third place car. Matteo Quintarelli is going to be serving a drive-through penalty. That's going to put the Writer Engineering number 25 back into a potential podium position.
Yeah, so that was for the breaking of the speed limit when Lena Bula was at the wheel of the 50 car coming into pit lane during the regular stop. So that's going to be a speeding converted to a drive-through penalty. And we were concerned that that might take Quintarelli's car out of the mix. Well, yep, that is going to be the case now. And like you said at the time, the safety car was not going in their favour because it's bunched everybody else up, and the cars behind will be the ones to benefit. Adrien David for RSGP has broken free of his teammate in the 86 car, Joel Gramforce. Who else was putting Adrien David under pressure? It was David Drew a few laps ago.
They're two to watch,
yeah,
you know, because we've got potential movement up front. First and third, that is Max van der Steur having a bit of a rotation. There's potential podium positions up for grabs here. Rory van der Steur desperate to get through into the lead here. And Sniffy's got problems coming from the rear, including that's AMG and David Fumanelli. So Kessel Ferrari, Cone Racing Aston Martin, Team Motor Park AMG with a penalty to come. Kessel Racing second Ferrari, then the Iron Dames, and then, after its drive-through penalty, the AF Corsa 51 Ferrari.
Mercedes runs a little bit wide coming out of Senior. On his tail, David Fumanelli, who's one of the few GT3 cars now in the clear, having served a penalty not too long ago. Another cracking lap from Griffin Peebles. 1:59.5. Is that better than we've had in LMP3? No, not quite. Anyway, as we feast our eyes on this GT battle, let's head to Steph Wentworth in the sunshine.
And with all the penalties up at the top in LMP3, I am joined now by Ben Spellin, driver of the number 25 Writer Engineering. Currently, you guys are just outside of the podium, but there are a few question marks to the cars ahead of you.
Yeah, it's great to be here. It's a huge improvement for us compared to Barcelona. In Barcelona, we were struggling a lot, but here the team has managed to put the car together, and we can see this on track also with pace. It's really close now. I heard that the car in front of us actually got a drive-through penalty, so we are moved up to the 3rd position. But we are being chased really closely, so it's really nerve-wracking for me. But I believe in Michelin, and I know he has gotten the pace. He had the pace for the whole weekend. He always was fast, so I believe that he should be able to handle the pressure.
All right, best of luck. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, that's a nervy time, isn't it? Car 10, by the way, the latest car to get a penalty, 10 seconds added, full course yellow infringement. We're catching up on time. That was 55 minutes ago rather than an hour ago, but there's still potential for more to change. That is the Racing Spirit Le Mans car of Antoine Ducas. Track limits warning now for the Team Motor Park car. So Lucas Donner has got to be very careful indeed. And catching up to that group, Marta Garcia. So this group of 4 backing GT3 cars could end up being a group of 5. As I keep saying, there is Marta Garcia. As I keep saying, the AMG with a 10-second penalty that will be added to its race time.
Yeah. So if it stays lodged in 3rd, that will drop it behind Fuminelli and Garcia.
How long ago did we get confirmation, Johnny, of the penalty for the number 50 car?
That message came through about 4 minutes ago.
Right, so still one more lap before they have to take it. Car 98, the Motorsport 98 car, 5 seconds for a full course yellow infringement. So they've really had their eyes peeled on this, haven't they? Motorsport 98, by the way, is the 2nd place car in Pro-Am. Now, what is that going to do? That is certainly going to drop it to 3rd. Warning flag on track limits now for the 2nd place car in GT3.
Here comes the Mercedes of Lucas Donner, trying the move around the outside of Rory van der Steur. He's having to attack and defend at the same time, keeping a watching brief on David Fuminelli's Ferrari. And a short moment or two ago at Virage Dupont was there contact between the Virage on the inside line and the 62 Breton on the outside.
I don't think so, but it was very close.
Not. Yeah, nip and tuck, but they both survived that. And a bit of breathing space all of a sudden for Andrea Bellicchi. He's made a break from Rory van der Steur, who's under all this pressure from the penalised Mercedes. It's actually going to be a penalty to the Breton 62 as well, 10 seconds to be added.
Yeah, that car pretty much out of contention for anything close to a podium in LMP3 Pro-Am. It's been the heart of the lot of the action, but not to any great avail of late. More yellows at turn 8. I think that might still be the debris. No sign of the car having stopped there. I think the yellows are because there's a gap, and we may well have seen that there'll be a bit of a grab on that debris. There's a long gap.
So live retrieval of the debris, the car bits from the marshals, yes. So you can do that even in the race, because the whole of the Mistral, amazingly, has no cars on it at the moment. They're all bunched on the other side of the circuit. Just getting word from Steph in the pit lane that the 50 car is driven through pit road to serve its drive-through penalty. So Matteo Quintarelli was getting towards the edge. Oh, we are going to have a full course yellow,
so
however.
I wonder if that's what it is. They've decided there's more maybe than they thought there was, and it needs further intervention. So full course yellow is going to come in 15 seconds. Just to complete the point you were making as I rudely interrupted you, Johnny. The 50 car in the hands of Matteo Quintarelli has served its drive-through, drops it out of the overall top 10. It emerges, though, 10th in LMP3 just as we go into full course yellow. Just looking at the order in GT3. Remarkably, it's exactly the same order. Kessel Racing lead from Code Racing Developments, Aston Martin, Team Motor Parks, AMG with a 10-second penalty to come, and David Fumanelli still running in 4th with the Iron Dames Porsche in 5th, and just looking to see, actually dropping back again a little. Now they've grabbed that great big piece of debris, but I suspect the reason we've got a full course yellow is there might well be other bits and bobs. Bear totally right, drivers are being told, whilst the debris clear-up is underway. Meanwhile, Max van der Snel, for about the 3rd time, is trying to leapfrog his way through this GT3 battle.
He's trying his level best, but there's been at least one spin in the process, so that has delayed him. This is our 4th full course yellow, and when you total them all up, we're up to 8 minutes of full course yellow, but the safety car by far outweighs that at 18.5 minutes.
I add this just purely for note, is that's a bigger gap under full course yellow between the 1st and 2nd place car than it was before we went there.
Yes.
That could just as easily be an early reaction from the Aston Martin as a late reaction from the Ferrari. Full course yellow is going to end in 15 seconds, and we've got the biogas Ferrari in front of this.
We'll be removing full course yellow in 10, 9,
moments when we go
8,
to green.
7,
it's going to go to green
6,
with this group.
5, 4, 3,
in the chicane.
2, 1. Full course yellow has been removed.
That's not ideal, but the revs are turned up, and now the Mercedes finds itself on the wrong side of a bit of traffic, so that's going to allow the Aston Martin
The
a
warning
bit more
flag forecast,
breathing
62
room.
for constantly
The Aston Martin
abusing
will
track
have to
limits.
try and make a bit of space, if it can, for one LMP3 car, but not the second of those. Yes, the Biogas Motorsport car now with Mark Carroll at the wheel, I'd worked out was on the wrong side of the earlier safety car, and therefore lost most of a lap in the process, and is about to be fully lapped now by Andrea Bellicchi in the 17 Kessel Racing car. So Alvise Rodea for CLX Motorsport is leading LMP3, car number 87, by 8.5 seconds over Luciano Morano, his Forestier Racing by VPS car. That's number 92. Then the Reiter Engineering Michelin Born 25. Then David Drew. Now you said to look out for David Drew. I clearly kept an eye on him as well. He's got ahead of Adrian David and into 4th position.
Yeah, they're battling away and catching Nicolas Bourne. Remember, we still have, it's 5 seconds added, by the way, to 2 more cars, the 77 and the 83. So that is the Iron Dames car, drops them effectively out of any contention for a podium unless we get another safety car. And the 77 is the Reiter Engineering car in 4th place. You know what? There's so many penalties. This timing screen is going to adjust at the flag, and we're going to see a whole different picture, particularly in LMP3 Pro Am.
While RHGP will be rubbing their hands together because that should benefit the 88 car, probably into 4th from currently 5th. Maybe Kevin Rabin, although was the Rabin car also on a list somewhere that I'd spotted earlier on. I've kind of lost track now because there were so many race control messages all coming through in a flurry.
I think we have at least 10 cars with time penalties to be added.
Yeah.
So we'll call it as we see it. With the exception of CLX Motorsport, we have not heard about any penalty for a safety car infringement for the 87 car. We saw that was under investigation. At the moment, 8.8 seconds to the good. Alvise Rodella will be getting the message that he needs to get the hurry up, because if that turns out to be a time penalty, 8.8 seconds, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be a shock to you, it's less than 10 seconds.
92 is in the clear. There have been no messages from race control regarding the 92 car.
And 87, what did we see? What was the message?
87 so far is a safety car procedure under review, but no further messages. That was well, that was 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, I can tell you as well, by the way, that Luciano Morano is catching the leader.
Yeah.
That lead is coming down, no doubt about it.
That was certainly the case last time around.
And he's quicker again in the first sector. We'll keep an eye on sector times here.
about Michelin Le Mans car. That's number 25, just scouting through messages regarding that one.
Car 33, a drive
that's okay as well.
God, the penalties are thick and fast.
So 33 is the Kessel Racing Ferrari.
Wow,
well, Fuminelli had already served a penalty, and we thought was in the clear.
He's got it's a full-course yellow infringement, so he's going to drop back from 4th to put the Iron Dames forward, but they've got a 5-second penalty, and the car ahead of Fuminelli has got a 10-second penalty, and my head's just exploded.
I think along with several other people watching this race, it might be best as we just call it as we see it, but the Motor Park car is in a false position, but you can also now say the Ferrari behind it is in a false position, and that will be addressed within the race because it's a drive-through.
We've got Rory van der Steur on a track limits warning. Okay?
Yes.
But as long as he keeps it on the straight and narrow here, he's under no pressure from the cars behind.
No.
We've got 15 minutes to go. If he keeps that, obviously Rory is going to want to try to win the race, but he's got no actual real-world pressure from behind, because the car behind him is on a 10-second penalty, the car behind that is on a drive-through, the car behind that is on a 5-second penalty.
So it's all rosy in the Code Racing Development Department,
unless he gets track limits, in which case he's going to be on a drive-through.
Yeah. And he's on a last chance, as quite a number of drivers are, in fact. But there's no reason now to be driving like crazy and crossing white lines left, right and centre, because if you keep it neat and tidy, you could be up for grabs a very good result.
And the Motor Park car is now under investigation for track limits as well.
There you go. So even more reason for...
Keep it clean.
Keep it clean.
So, we're under 15 minutes to go. It is Alvis Rodella, 8.8 seconds still ahead, with a review underway, but let's call it as we see it right now from Luciano Morano and Nicolas Bourne. Behind them, David Drew and Adrian David are right there, as is Axel Noss, for what would be the final podium position at worst. Then got a bit of a gap before Jean Granforce and Theo Mercouris, the top 8, and then completing the top 10 are the top 2 cars in LMP3 Pro-Am, one of which, Guillaume Henrion, the second place car, has got a 5-second penalty to be added. It is
but the
indeed.
84 is in the clear, as things stand.
And the 71?
71 is the Rinaldi car, and that's getting 10 seconds added to the next pit stop. Now, what time was that? That was at about 10 to the last hour, so they may well have served that during the pit stop.
Look at their pit stop time. No, 2:42. He's got 10 seconds to add, which then brings Horst Felix Felbermayr into play, and he would end up on the podium.
Yeah. That's in
this is remarkable.
That's in the 77 car. I hope you're keeping up, folks. We're struggling, but we're just about okay. The 77 has got 10 seconds added to its next pit stop.
Right, okay.
And that was after the pit stop, the normal pit stop was done.
So we are then getting into the position where we're almost order restored, second, third and fourth, because
everyone's got
penalties for you, penalties for me, penalties for everybody.
Well, hey, in for a penny, in for a penalty, in for a pound.
Indeed. So Team Motor Park 65 car comes down pit lane now. That puts David Fuminelli back into a podium position, which he will lose with his 10-second gap, as long as Marta Garcia can keep it on the island and keep up the pace. She would inherit third place.
12 minutes to go, and still great action out on the racetrack. Let's hope that it's not all decided either via a route down the pit lane or extra time added to race times. It becomes confusing when teams run out of pit stops, and of course in a Michelin Le Mans Cup race you've only got one pit stop.
Yep.
And if a penalty is assessed after that, then it's kind of all up there in the ether, depending on what your ultimate race time is. Al Kamel will have all of these noted down. We'll press a single button probably just as soon as the cars cross the line, and those penalties will be incorporated, and the very murky picture will become instantly clear. Trying to keep you abreast of the situation. Now a drive-through penalty for car 77. So that's the one that we thought was in the clear only a few moments ago, but it's going to have a 10-second penalty added at the end of the race, and now a drive-through before we get there. The one we still don't know enough about is 87, yeah. Which is still on the list of being investigated, and that is crucial because it's the race leader in LMP3. Warning flag for track limits for the 88 car, one of the RHGP machines for Fabien Lavert.
Don't do that, mate, because one more penalty, you could win the race from 5th.
I was going to say strange things have happened, but I don't think they have in this situation.
I don't recall this many penalties.
Ever.
In the history of ever.
Now then. Battling at the head of the order in LMP3 Pro-Am between Julien Henrion in his Motorsport 98 car and Paul Trajani. That's just happened.
Yes.
And there's also a change there for the lead in GT3. So Henrion now leads in LMP3 Pro-Am. He's got ahead of Paul Trajani. And the Aston Martin late on the brakes on the Kessel Racing Ferrari. However, how does that work things out as far as the penalties
doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
There's Fuminelli's drive-through being completed.
These are the only two cars in the top 5 that's not got a penalty.
Fine. So this is a real battle.
Race.
Yeah,
yes, it is.
Good.
Now the key thing is Julien Henrion. He's cleared the leader, so he's the new leader. He now needs to pull away. Now it's a race against time and not position for Julien Henrion. He's got, was it a 5-second penalty, I think, for Henrion?
In the
98?
98, bear with me. 98 gets a 10 and a 5, excuse me.
10 and a 5.
10 seconds added to the next pit stop, and a 5 seconds added to the next pit stop. They were for 2 different full course yellow infringements. One at 7 minutes past 5, one at 25 minutes past 5.
That was going to drop him 15 seconds, which would absolutely lose him a podium position. But he's not going to pick up 15 seconds in the last 9 minutes. Julien Henrion is, though, already a second ahead of Paul Trajani. He can, though, save some positional. 62, drive through penalty track limits. That's the Breton Racing car.
Which is, as we speak...
And that's at least 2 penalties for that car. That is 12th in LMP3 Pro-Am.
Okay, yeah.
So that's a second penalty for that car. This is more than topsy-turvy stuff. There is, however, a moment on the last lap that could end up being extremely significant, Johnny. And that is Alvis Rodella has just managed to eke out his lead to more than 10 seconds. So, 8 minutes to go. I think we've just got a message that says the previous full course yellows, we've got to the end of the to-do list for race control.
Well, that was the most recent full course yellow at 24 minutes past 6.
So we're up to date. Everything we've got is all we're getting, with the exception maybe of CLX Motorsport.
Yes.
And they are now an increasing gap ahead, 10.4 seconds clear now for STA Racing. So if there's a 10-second penalty coming, they'd still win the race, is the point I was making.
Yeah, no, it's a good one.
Horst Felix Felbermayr in and out, drops that car down to, at the moment, 7th place in LMP3 Pro-Am. So quick look before we get into the last knockings of this race at the young pretenders, if you like, in the LMP3 running. Nielsen Racing's number 7 car, Colin Noble. That car pitted some time ago and has stayed pit bound. The second car, the number 4 car, still running, 14th in LMP3 but 26th overall, some way back. And then the Ginetta is top 10 in LMP3 but behind the lead 3 cars at the moment without their penalties. in LMP3 Pro Am. Could well end up with a top 10 position overall at points for Ginetta. I think that would be the first time a Ginetta has scored points in the European Le Mans Series in a decade.
My only concern, going back to your point about the 87 car, is that it's under investigation for safety car infringement, and that surely would carry a bigger penalty than just 10 seconds to be added.
Depends what it did.
True. Safety car procedure. We still have not had a resolution to that.
No.
Meanwhile, CD Sport on the ragged edge, having to straight line the first corner at Verrerie. That was the 31. So the not damaged car in the hands of Kevin Rabin. Remember, the 30 car had severe repair work that needed to be sorted out between qualifying and today's race.
Keeping an eye, by the way, still on the number 66 Rinaldi racing car. Griffin Peoples hasn't given this up, you know. He's in the top 10. The gap, as I looked at it before the safety car, it was 1 minute and 45 seconds behind his nearest contender. The safety car's helped. It's now 40 seconds back. I know there are a fair number of viewers that like to keep an eye post-race on driver averages. I suspect the driver average for young Griffin Peoples is going to be quite remarkable.
Good time from Felipe Fernandez-Laza in his 71 LMP3 Pro-Am car. Currently positioned in 3rd position, and that's the best lap time so far for that particular car. But will be getting an extra 10 seconds slapped in its direction. However, as we've said, most of the cars behind him are also going to get penalties, so that might still even out to a podium for Rinaldi Racing. The ragged edge of a Dijon there is Marta Garcia, and being overtaken by the 51 Ferrari, a move for 3rd position.
Yeah, that's the recovering 51 Ferrari. The less said about the last time this two got together, the better. So that was a clean pass from the Ferrari. Marta Garcia will keep up the fight, I'm sure.
So no opportunity to repay the favour down the inside of Virage Dupont, the classic overtaking manoeuvre in both GT and prototypes. I'm sure we'll see a few overtakes tomorrow in the European Le Mans Series race at turn 14. Great and really rewarding way to get by your rival. Rory van der Steur leads GT3 in the number 11 Code Racing Development. Aston Martin still keeping his racing lines neat and tidy, but remember, he's in last life territory regarding track limits. Andrea Bellicchi in the Kessel Racing Ferrari also in the clear in the number 17 regarding any penalties to this point. 3 minutes and 40 seconds to go.
Yeah, a couple of laps left in this race. It's been stop-start stuff with an absolute tsunami of penalties for a range of matters, track limits. Actually, rather less than full course yellow this time. Full course yellow has been clearly very much on the to-do list in race control in the stewards' room. So CLX Motorsport, 10.6 seconds to the good. What are we going to see at the end of this race? Timing screens will reorder the way that our friends at Alcamel, fabulous job that they do. Those times will be added at the flag.
Yeah. Well, Barcelona brought them a 1-2 finish, but it was actually the sister car that took the victory on that occasion. Cedric Ultramare and David Drew. Drew has been charging his way through the order. They're looking like they might finish 1st and 4th as things stand.
Well, he's right there for 3rd, though. He's 0.4 of a second back from Nicolas Bourne. That is a real proper battle. Here is that battle.
Yeah.
So that is one change that could still come. Also still up for grabs is 5th place Adrian David and Axel Knox, by the way, RSGP and ANS Motorsport. That one's still not done. 2 minutes to go. This is going to be about where the leader is. Or where the leader is crossing the line now. I think this will be the final lap. It is indeed. Causes the final lap of trouble as the 88 car goes around.
So 88, Fabien Laverne, 4th in LMP3 Pro-Am, and Antoine Duquin gets the place, but was there some contact to force that?
Let's have a look.
Duquin's very, very close, and into the chicane on the Mistral straight. Duquin goes to the inside line, which Laverne did not like so much, pinched the line, and the two made contact, resulting in Laverne's spin. That's going to linger on as well, isn't it?
Yeah, that one might be a post flag. Look at it, a minute to go on the clock. That doesn't matter. It's the final lap for the number 87 car. Crucially, it's over 11 seconds. We have to play a bit of hashtag wait and see as to what comes their way. Incident involving those two cars is under review. That's not a surprise.
So that's going to be looked at. The final lap then for the car that finished second in Barcelona, in the hands of Alvise Rodea. Still scrapping going on into the braking area of the chicane as the 25 car charges its way down the inside.
That's the second place on the final lap.
So Miklos Born, yes, he's under pressure from David Drew. Now, did Drew get through as well? Because Drew could be about to gain the places. He's fully off the track, is he not? It's difficult to tell from this distance. Here comes Drew to snatch that position away as well.
He's second. That's remarkable on the final lap.
So Reiter Engineering think, awesome, we've gained a place and now we've lost a place, so we stay in third.
So CLX Motorsport is a 1-2.
So CLX Motorsport, but the big question is, was he over the white line when he was making that overtake? It was very difficult to tell from that distance. This car, though, for the time being is in the clear. It's still under investigation, potentially for a safety car procedure, but it will cross the line as the leading car. And Alvise Rodea, second in Barcelona, makes that a win in Le Castellet, together with his teammate Pierre-Alexandre Provost, who was superb in the opening stanza of this race. And it is a CLX 1-2 as things are over the line, with David Drew snatching not only third, but second as well in one overtake.
There's every possibility as we watch the rest of this crowd come over. We may see a change in podium positions. We have on the final lap in GT3, because Alessio Dono has moved up to second place for AF Corsa.
So waiting for Rory van der Steur. By the way, the Pro-Am winner is over the line. That's ANS Motorsport, because Julien Henrion's penalty has now been enforced. He was carrying a 15-second penalty, 10+5, which drops the Motorsport 98 car behind ANS, who win with their 84 car. So congratulations to both Julien Lemoine and Paul Trajani. Here are the GTs, still only halfway round their final lap. So it's Aston Martin, Rory van der Steur for Code Racing Development, leading Eliseo Dono's Ferrari. There he is in the white of Kessel Racing.
No, it's the blue car is the 51, then the white is Eliseo Dono.
There we go.
Then behind that is a lapped car, it's the biogas car, then it's the Iron Dames.
So I had Eliseo Dono right, I didn't have the paint scheme quite correct, but the 51A of Corsa Ferrari running in second ahead of Andrea Bellicchi.
We're going to see some adjustments for time penalties on a couple of these cars as they cross the line. I think though the top three remain as they stand.
Certainly the top two, well, first and third were in the clear. I don't think Dono's carrying anything though either.
He's had his drive-through, two drive-throughs.
Well, they've done them, haven't they? But there's no extra time to be added. No, I can't see any record of that.
They're fine. What happens? And the Iron Dames retain fourth despite their time penalty.
So Rory van der Steur and Code Racing Development take a victory for Aston Martin. Teammate in the number 11 car, Philip Saga, who drove so well also. And there is confirmation of the GT3 winner. The Aston Martin takes it from the 51A of Corsa Ferrari of Alessio Dono and Alessandro Cozzi. And third position, the Kessel car, number 17 of Lorenzo Innocenti from pole position, and his teammate Andrea Bellicchi.
Well. So, CLX Motorsport, a second consecutive 1-2 as things stand right now. Reiter Engineering, and what was an amazing final lap. Grabbed second, lost second. Reiter Engineering, though, come home with the podium position for the 25 car. we've got double yellows at turn 15. Is that just for the cars to collect? I suspect it might be. A&S Motorsport, top 10 finish and the win in LMP3 Pro-Am. Motorsport 98 retain a podium position second despite a post-race penalty, and the 71 Rinaldi Racing, again with a penalty post-race, retain the podium too. Just a quick mention that the Ginetta did come home 10th in class, 11th overall, and I think that means they will get the first point for the Ginetta since the very first year of the Michelin Le Mans Cup. GT3, Code Racing Developments, first year in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, first win in race 2.
So on the final lap, the Ferraris were almost exchanging paint at the start of this final tour, but it was a good run from Eliseo Dono, almost throwing the dummy on Andrea Bellicchi, a man of his experience. But Dono down the inside on that short, sharp straight between turns 2 and 3, completed the manoeuvre at the hotel corner, turn 3, Virage de l'Hôtel, and that will put the 51 car into second place. All the chops and the changes have been done now by Alcamel. So for the time being, we can give you this as a provisional result. There may still be further investigation, but the fact that there's been radio silence regarding the 87 car really does give me confidence that this is a legitimate victory for CLX Motorsport. It's certainly another 1-2 to back up their cracking Barcelona result. It's just in the reverse order. So 87 finishing ahead of 97. They were the other way around 4 weeks ago in Catalonia. And it just shows that, well, we've got there's maybe some decisions to be making, although CLX Motorsport have two very different campaigns. So there can't be anything like race orders, team orders, I wouldn't have thought. No. It's just a question of whoever's quicker at each of the different venues we go to.
Pretty remarkable final lap behind Alvis Rodella. David Drew came onto that last lap in 4th. Michael Bourne, it was Luciano Morano passed Michael Bourne, the other way round, sorry, to Writer Engineering grabbing 2nd. But in that tussle, it just compromised those two cars and gave enough for David Drew to get the run on both of them, coming between the chicane and Scene Corner to grab 2nd from 4th. Astounding. Great result, though, for the Aston Martin we can see here.
So they're going to pose with the #1 trophy, if you like. Not really a trophy, sort of a travelling bollard. Just an excuse to get the word bollard in, frankly, with the #1 emblazoned on the side, and that's going to look like a perfect photograph of those two either side of it. Here is a hard-working Rory van der Steur clambering out of the Aston Martin that was started by Philippe Saga.
Well, for a last-minute replacement in this team before, just the days before the Barcelona round, to take a win at round 2, this young man is going to be utterly delighted, I'm sure, be pretty shattered. That was quite the experience, I'm sure, managing all the carnage around him, but taking the car to the lead and then driving away and out of trouble, cracking stuff. David Drew.
Terrific effort again from David Drew. It shows the value of, if you've got a gold in your lineup, holding back that gold for the latter stages. And it begs the question as to perhaps why Colin Noble goes into the Ades at the start of the race rather than using him at the end. But Nielsen will have an explanation, I'm sure. So another great result for CLX. Let's head to Steph.
The winners here in LMP3, the number 87 CLX Motorsport, second last time, top step of the podium this time. Alvise, I'll give you a little break. I know you just brought the car in, you're absolutely exhausted. Pierre, a win for you in your home race as well.
Yeah, really good. Starting from pole, it was the main objective to get a really good result today, and finish P1 after the pole is really good. So happy to do that with my teammate Alvise. Strong race, thanks to all the team which did really great work, and yeah, I didn't have so many other words to say. That's just a really good result for us.
Anything to add?
Yeah, very smooth race. Thank you to deliver the car until the first pit stop in P1, 10 seconds, and I just finished the race leading that gap. Yeah, thank you. I dedicate this victory to my teammate.
Congratulations both, enjoy the podium.
Grazie, ciao, ciao.
Two real characters there. Congratulations to them. Round 2 of the Michelin Le Mans Cup began then at just before 5 o'clock here in Le Castellet, and the action, well, we got stuck in with that more or less straight away. A car did not get away too well from the start line. That was the Forestier Racing by VPS number 29, but also the early spin for the pole sitter in LMP3 Pro Am for Terence Woodward. He reckoned he got a smack from behind that pitched him into a spin. We never did really get to the bottom of that. Talking of smacks from the side, well, that was a big wallop, in fact caused by Vanina Rix's Porsche, but it came back to bite her on the left-hand side, stripping away a significant portion of the bodywork of the Porsche. Amazingly though, it did well to finish in the top 4 by the flag. Then the remnants of damaged cars after an untidy getaway, I think it's fair to say. There was quite a lot of investigation work that the stewards needed to do to that race start. Also some contact to the motor park Mercedes from the Aston Martin that would subsequently have a great race. Big damage to the front of the Ebby Motors Porsche after a spin for the GG Classics LMP3 car, but good manoeuvres up and down the order, cheered on from the pit wall, from the garages as well. Synchronized spinning for the High Class Racing number 4 and the Nielsen number 4 Ades and the High Class Racing Ligier car number 20. But an early lead was established by Julien Le Mans in the 84 car from the A&S crew. So his Pro-Am car became the dominant force. There was maybe some worry that that was the car that had come into contact with Terence Woodward very early on. Really good last gasp manoeuvre down the inside into turn number 14, a virage Dupont from the number 51 Ferrari, a classic Paul Ricard overtake. Pit stops would continue, making sure that the 50-minute minimum drive time had been served by both drivers. And then CLX, who had a good opening stint, started to really open up a gap. However, a late safety car because of a fire, a cockpit fire in the Breton Racing number 26. Thankfully, the driver was out quickly and okay, but Gregory de Cyborg eager to get that fire extinguished as quickly as possible. But it condensed the field so that as we got going again, all of those big gaps were no longer there, and kept us guessing to the final moment. But both Graham Goodwin and I don't remember a race where we've had quite as many in-race penalties issued, either as penalties that would be put onto the race time at the end or as drive-throughs. And we really did have to keep our eye on which cars were still potentially in contention. The top 2 in GT3, the 17 Ferrari and the number 11 Aston Martin, remained in the clear, so we could enjoy a fair fight there. Gillian Omrion did eventually get ahead of the 84 A&S car, at this point driven by Paul Trajani, but subsequently Gillian Omrion given a penalty. This was the lead change in GT3. Down the inside, a confident manoeuvre from Rory van der Steur to outmuscle Andrea Bellicchi. Late contact is still being looked at between the Racing Spirit of Le Mans and RHGP LMP3 cars. That happened with a few laps to go. And also this pincer movement. Now, the 25 Reiter Engineering car thought it had bagged second place. In fact, it had done briefly, and that was the reaction from the team. But they didn't count on David Drew, then snatching second place at the end of the next bit of the Mistral Straight. It's a wonderful result again for CLX Motorsport, repeating their 1-2 finish from Barcelona, but just the other way around. 87 then, finished by Alvise Rodea and shared with his teammate from France, Provost. So they take the victory this time, and it's the 97 car of Cedric Ultramer and David Drew who finished second. The Ferraris were still fighting as they hit their final lap, and that was the dice for second position. Aston Martin, though, win it for Code Racing Development ahead of the 51 AF Corsa car, the blue Ferrari and the white Ferrari in the distance. Quite a race for the Michelin Le Mans Cup. So we can take a breath and now hope that there aren't going to be too many changes to this final result, Greg.
Well, here's the final result. 52 laps completed for the 87 car. That team manager called to race control right now. 11 seconds to the good over the sister 97 at the moment, with Reiter Engineering third in the 25. Forestier Racing bundled out of podium by the end of there with RHGP's 85 car, the best of the Duquesnes. LMP3 Pro Am A&S Motorsport finished 9th overall and win that class ahead of Motorsport 98, carrying a penalty dropping them back from the lead. They finished in and Rinaldi Racing 71, also with a post-race penalty. GT3 was just, well, an absolute dogfight. Code Racing Development, fine efforts from Philip Sager and Rory van der Steur to bring the 11 Aston Martin home in the lead. A fighting run to the end of the race from AF Course's 51. Ferrari grabs them second, and the 17 Kessel Racing car completes the podium with the Iron Dames back in fourth. Now, are we going to see the 87 crew on the top step here? So car 87 under investigation, safety car at 18:01 infringement, and the team manager has been called to race control.
So that is likely to have been the second safety car phase. Let me just confirm that. We had two.
Right at the beginning of the race, yeah. The first one, and the second one, you're right, in the second half of the race.
Yes. And that was reasonably, it was in the second half of the race. So, yeah, just after 6 o'clock through till about 9 minutes past 6, there was a safety car, and that's the one under the microscope now. The fact that it happened at 1 minute past 6, I mean, that was right at the start of the safety car. So is there potential for the 87 car to have gone by the safety car, or just not obeyed its instructions somehow?
Not clue. But here we go. We are going to see the 87 crew, I'm sure, on the podium, because here is the third place car crew. This is the 25 Writer Engineering crew, Johnny.
Yeah. So well done to Miklas Born in car 25 and the starting driver Bence Valent, who we heard from partway through the event. Good interview with Steph Wentworth.
Barcelona winners, the number 97 crew from CLX Motorsport, takes second place here, and it's the 87 pairing of CLX Motorsport. It's a 1-2 again here at Paul Ricard, but in the opposite order.
So clearly the Swiss squad, who went through a rebranding exercise through the winter period, no longer known as Cool Racing. They're now CLX, but they continue with these incredible results. A great start to their season. Let's hear the national anthem of Switzerland. So the voice of Anthony Drevet, by the way, in the background, who seems to be omnipresent this weekend. He's doing the French commentary for the Michelin Le Mans Cup. He's in a booth next door to us, but then when I step out of our truck, he's also on the circuit PA, and now he's standing next to the podium. I think there's actually about three Anthony Drevet.
Yeah, Anthony Drevet 1 and 2, maybe 3.
And now 3 for the podium.
Drevet, Attack of the Clones.
The hardest working French commentator in the business. This weekend at Paul Ricard. So there are the trophies being waved aloft. I just hope that this is not a short-run thing for the 87 crew, with team managers being called, but the grins are there. So let's savour these, and if it is a result that is called as a final classification, what a start to the season it is for CLX Motorsport. They're going to take some stopping this year.
Well, frankly, even if it isn't, it would be the 97 to win the race.
Yeah.
So whatever happened in terms of that infringement, otherwise, it was a great run from the two young men in the 87 car. Characters, both of them, as you've now seen. And it really was a matter of just staying out of trouble and keeping the pace up here, as all around them, it seems, grabbed a penalty or two. Be interesting to actually analyse after this just how many cars on this grid got a penalty. And my guess is 20 plus.
You can while away the Saturday evening hours working that out if you wish.
Or
drink some beer.
Yeah. That's the provisional point standings. Look at that. It's CLX 87 from 97, 1 point apart, but then 27 points ahead of Reiter Engineering's number 25 car, Team Virage, for SDA Racing's 29, then the two RSGP cars.
And I'm reminding myself about pole positions. Did either of them actually get pole? I don't think they did. So they're up there courtesy of race results rather than anything else. But now as we redress the podium, let's head back to Steph.
Now joined by the winners in LMP3 Pro and the number 84 A&S Motorsport, Julien Le Mans and Paul Trajani. Congratulations to you both. A home race victory, so it must feel even better.
Yeah, it's incredible. Win Le Castellet. Congrats to the team. He did an amazing job. Really, thank you.
Julien, a tough race for you?
It was tough. It was very hard because we had a lot of battle on the track, a lot of safety cars, so it was definitely a tough one. But yeah, it's a teamwork. We often forget it, but it's a big teamwork, and it's a very pleasure to have our first victory at home in Le Castellet.
Well, congratulations. Enjoy the podium.
Thank you.
Well done to A&S Motorsport. Just to write something I said going into that interview, I suggested that CLX hadn't got a pole. In fact, they did earlier today. That feels like about a week ago. But well done to Pierre-Alexandre Provost, who was the standout driver in qualifying earlier today. So they got a point for the 87, hence why they're separated by a point within that category. Let's turn our attention, though, to LMP3 Pro Am.
That's Felipe Large and Stefan Aust. It is for Rinaldi Racing on the third step of the podium. Motorsport 98 will be Gillian Henrion and the veteran Eric de Doncker. Eric's been around since God was a lad.
So they say. Very smart race suits to match the paint job on that car as well. Here then in second position, those names you've just mentioned, Julien Henrion and Eric de Doncker in the 98 crew, finishing the race as the lead car on the road, but then carrying those two separate penalties from full course yellow infringements. But it says something about Julien Henrion's pace to be able to soak both those penalties up and still finish second. But here are the winners in LMP3 Pro Am. The 84 duo of Julien Le Mans, who started, Paul Trajani, who took over, together with their engineer. And here in France, therefore, at their home race, it is the French national anthem for A&S Motorsport. A&S Motorsport victorious, but some useful points for some other less vaunted teams, I suppose, through the years. But it could be Motorsport 98's year, you never know. Rinaldi Racing, likewise, the 66 had been a star previously at Barcelona, with thanks to Griffin Peebles' pace. So there might be some changing of the guard to be taking place in 2025.
Absolutely. So delighted crew in third place. Felipe Larza, Stefan Aust. Motorsport 98 as well. And then A&S Motorsport again stayed out of trouble. Yep. Simple as that, stayed out of trouble. And whilst Motorsport 98 did finish ahead of them on the road, 15 seconds of penalties meant that a 2-second advantage turned into a 13-second deficit. Gillian Henrion actually did very well indeed to retain second, but they retained second place by just over a second, so that push after he passed the 84 car was enough to keep him in second place.
But Rinaldi, for the second race running, get a car on the podium. It was actually a 1-2 finish in Barcelona when Steve Parrow and Griffin Peebles won that race in Pro-Am. from Stefan Aust.
Right, because Steve Parrow said that was his first race win ever.
I know. So Rinaldi have brought a couple of strong cars to the championship this year, and now with a 71 in third, that's going to be right up there. In fact, they lead by 3 points over ANS Motorsports number 84 from the 66 car. Where did 66 finish that race? Okay, down in 9th. Well, still in the points and still there for third in the championship. Motorsport 98 rocket up to 4th on 18, but they're level pegging with more Motorsport. And our Race GP's 88 car with the GG Classics. It was in the wars today, but 7th place for car number 58.
It is Felipe Fernandez-Larza and Stefan Aust that lead the way. From the winners today, Julien Lemoine and Paul Trujani, different peoples, and Steve Parrow. That's LMP3 Pro-Am done and dusted. Time to look at LMGT3 and to go down to Steph Wentworth, who's going to talk about the winners there.
Now joined by the winners in GT3, the number 11 Code Racing Development, Philip Sager and Rory van der Steur. Rory, you brought the car home so well. The lead changed many times in GT3. It was crazy throughout.
Yeah, it was a fun one out there, except that I had 25 minutes of 4-track limit warning, so I had to basically tiptoe the way back for 25 minutes. So it wasn't the most easy drive home, but I brought it home. I went for the pass on the Ferrari. I knew where I was faster than him. He was a little better than me in some places, but some other places I was really, really strong. I had a run coming out of the last corner, so I knew I had to go for it in turn 1, and I did it, and I made it stick, no contact, so I'm really happy with that.
Well, congratulations both. Thank you so much. Enjoy the celebration.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we don't hear on this occasion from Philippe Sager, but he was absolutely part and parcel of that victory as well, putting the car in a great position. Consistently the quickest bronze driver in that opening 45-50 minute stint. So perhaps no surprise that Rory van der Steur took the car over in such a dominant position, but as he said, and we mentioned it thankfully, he was on the final track limits warning. So far from an enjoyable race towards the end, he can afford a smile now though.
So third place will be Kessel Racing, led the race for much of the afternoon. Andrea Bellicchi and Lorenzo Innocenti. They'll be disappointed, I think, with third after that. But points on the board. Then the 51 crew, after the dramas of Barcelona, making their way back after, I think it was 2 drive-through penalties for that car.
For car 51?
51. Certainly 1, I thought maybe 2, and making their way back through to second place. But the winners, Philip Sager and Rory van der Steur. Code Racing Development's Aston Martin. They will be correctly delighted with that.
They were under review for not following race direction instructions, but that was then waved away. I can only see 1 drive-through for car 51, but even so, to come back from that, to finish in second place. But it is Aston Martin and Code Racing Development who take the win. So the national anthem of France again. They again will be a team well positioned in the championship, and remember that the point scoring gets a little bit out of the ordinary heading into the next 2 races, because unlike the European Le Mans Series, there is no Imola race for the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Instead, a double header at the Le Mans support package. So a Thursday race on the 10th of June and a Saturday morning of the main race event, which will be the 12th of June, and they have tended to be 55-minute races. I think we go back to an hour though now, don't we, with these new Toyota engines?
We do, and in fact I think the only race at the moment that's unconfirmed is going to 2 hours is Silverstone.
Yes, which is a way off in the middle of September.
Absolutely.
So races 3 and 4, rounds 3 and 4 are next up, also in this country.
Absolutely.
But just quite a bit further north.
where the entire grid, the entire paddock is hugely excited to be coming to our home country, renowned as it is for our bonhomie, our hospitality, and of course the cuisine. Everybody looking forward to that.
Friday night fish and chips.
If you're lucky.
Well, there's a few places around Silverstone that you could potentially bag that. Northampton, what a beautiful town.
Oh, it's fantastic, isn't it? It's like a chocolate box kind of little village.
There aren't many of those in the surrounding area of Northamptonshire, and Northampton is famous for other things, like making shoes.
Think Hansel and Gretel after a carpet bombing.
You're going to get so much flack. I was being suggestive, but you've just gone right in there.
No,
okay.
no.
Well, best to get these out of the way because we've got a few months to repair the situation.
Yeah, hang on, I've got to take a call. It's the Northampton Tourist Board.
One member of staff. Anyway, so here we go. Code Racing Development are on 43 points and have a convincing lead after only 2 races of 8 points over Kessel Racing's 33. 4 back the sister Kessel Racing car with a podium today. And then in 4th position, it's the, well, I mentioned about Cozzi and Dono. No, I didn't. That's the 51 Ferrari, isn't it? So Alessandro Cozzi, the Monegasque driver, and Eliseo Dono. But the championship is led by Philippe Saga and by Rory van der Steur. Clever heads-up driving that. Yes, he was having to stay within the white lines, but he worked out where his car was fastest and needed to go for it into turns 1 and 2 at Verrerie. Pulled off the move with aplomb. Sadly, 1 or 2 other overtakes through the course of the day were less clean and did result in the odd spin. But as ever, the Michelin Le Mans Cup continues to enthrall and entertain. You never quite know what's going on at any one moment, frankly, until they cross the line, and that's the way we like it.
It's exactly the same compared to the European Le Mans Series as Daytona and Sebring.
Looking forward